Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. We got some breaking news to discuss. The Las Vegas Raiders have hired Tom Telesco to be the next general manager of the Silver and Black. Coming up here on our live show, I'm going to tell you why the Raiders decided to go this route, because this was something that we talked about yesterday, and one of the things that we kept on hitting on yesterday during our live show was it sounded like Mark Davis was getting more and more nervous around the idea of bringing in a first-time GM and a first-time head coach. Obviously, with the hiring of Antonio Pierce being that first time, it sounds like Telesco's interviews started to go pretty well. The reason why I'm a little bit upset, and I think that's my one-word reaction here to the Raiders hiring Telesco, like, I get it. He has had some success in the draft. He has been able to take some good players to the Chargers. His contracts have been an absolute disgrace, so hopefully the Raiders do not allow him to end up doing that. If you want to look at the positives in this, I see Nico Laz's super chat. Like, you were able to find a big-time quarterback in a Justin Herbert. However, to me, the reason why I am as upset as what I am is because the Raiders players wanted Champ Kelly, and I'm just kind of having a hard idea wrapping my mind around it of you keep Antonio Pierce, but you decide to move on from Champ. Like that's kind of like where I'm at the most upset that I am right now. To me, Ed Dodds would have been a better option. Champ Kelly would have been a better option. And the Raiders decided to go with Tom Telesco because they didn't want a new GM and a new head coach. But coming up here on today's show, I want a live instant reaction from the nation here of what exactly you guys are feeling. Like Nico, Keenan Allen, hell of a player. Like, he has not done that good of a job in terms of finding talent in the first round. He's done an okay job. Like Rashawn Slater was my number one tackle that draft. He absolutely hit that one out of the park. Mike Williams, I don't consider that to be a good one. Joey Bosa, that's a good one right there. Austin Eckler, good running back. Derwin James, talent. Herbert was able to find all of that. But give me your one-word reaction to the Raiders hiring Tom Telesco. And if you haven't already voted yet, make sure you guys go vote at the live poll at the very top. 69% of the people do not like this, and then the others, well, as you can see, I see mad, I see disappointment. Rick L, he crushed the draft from Rick. I guess it depends which drafts you're exactly looking at. Certain players, yes, absolutely, but there are certain players that almost every single team gets right. To me, what scares me is the contracts, right? Like, to me, I look at the Raiders as being in win now mode, and when you look at the deals, if they say somebody else is doing the contracts, I'll calm down here a little bit. It was more of I wanted other options to pair with Antonio Pierce. Like, let's not get it twisted, though. I'm still going to be looking forward to the Raiders season, no doubt about it. One person who's always ready to the party, Patrick B. Bang! Raiders, now we can build the offense. Like, this is the reason why I'm happy that the deal finally ended up getting done. I was sitting sick and tired of sitting around with my thumb up my you-know-what, waiting for the Raiders to hire an OC, because now you can get that blueprint going. You get Antonio Pierce, you get Tom Telesco in the same room, and now you have that idea of how can we find a franchise quarterback. That's the biggest thing that Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce need to do. Like, what's going to make me really buy into what they're selling this season is what AP and Telesco do at the quarterback position. So let's start building that offense. Let's go to Rashissimo. I don't really like the hire, but hopefully he can build off of a good roster. I mean, if there's one thing that Telesco, you got to give him some credit for, he tried to do his best to get a bunch of talent in one spot. Like, he was not afraid to sign players. He was not afraid to try to bring in big-name guys. The problem was, though, I felt like a lot of times it was, if I just throw a bunch of big names, what's going to stick? And I don't think that that's had a lot of success for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think, you know, Antonio Pierce needs to go out and say, hey, this would be a good fit with my team. Hey, this guy would fit really well on Patrick Graham's, because you're not just playing Madden, right? You can't just put a really talented player on a roster and expect it to work. That's where Telesco, to me, has really kind of missed the bump, if you will. I do want to give a shout-out to today's sponsor, and it's a huge one. Much, much love to Game Time. And if anybody out there knows, I want you to download the Game Time app. Use code Raiders20, and that way you get Raiders chat 20. Sorry, guys, I'm all over the place. Raiders chat for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. But also on top of that, because the big game is right around the corner, you can also use code Vegas100, and you're going to be able to save $100 off at the big game. So again, use promo code Vegas100 to get $100 off purchase of a ticket to the big game. And I don't know about y'all, Chugs and I are going to be out there in Vegas. We're going to be hanging out. We're going to be having a good time. And whether you want to go to a Vegas Knights game, whether you're trying to go to a concert, a comedy event, whatever it is, all I want you to do, download the Game Time app, $20 off with code RaidersChat. And again, $100 off the big game with code Vegas100. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. Let's keep interacting here with the nation. Dylan, been seeing people comp Caleb Williams to Kyler Murray, it's a dumb one, have lots of talent, but going to be a cancer in the locker room. Do you see any truth to that? I don't really think that Caleb Williams and Kyler Murray from a talent standpoint should be comped. However, the mentality of Kyler Murray being immature, yes, I have seen that comp with Caleb Williams, and I think it's a fair comparison. I don't care who you are. If you want to be a defensive tackle and write F Utah on your fingernails, go for it. If you want to be a corner, right? F Utah on your fingernails, go for it. There's a different level that I expect from my quarterback, and there are just certain little things that Caleb has done that has made me a little bit worried whether or not he's going to make it in the NFL. He's got all the talent in the world, but if you don't got it up here, you can't play QB. GM and coach, oil and water mix. I don't want my anger to come off of them not hiring Champ Kelly and them not hiring Ed Dodds, not to look at this and saying, if you guys wanted a home run swing, this is a home run swing. Like, I got to sit up here and at least give a little bit of credit here to the Raiders saying, if you want to take down Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, I sat up here on this show and I said, you need to try to hit a home run at the quarterback position. This is Mark Davis trying to hit a home run because Telesco has not been afraid to try to bring as much talent as humanly possible in free agency. He has not been afraid to maybe go a different route in the draft that some other people don't, and some have worked, some have not. But to me, if you can build a team like Telesco was able to build it with the Chargers, and then Antonio Pierce was able to motivate a bunch of these people, you're going for a home run. I do think that the route I would have gone was either Champ Kelly or Ed Dodds, and now I'm very curious to see where one of those guys ends up going. Like, I think Jim Harbaugh ends up going to the Chargers today or tomorrow, and then you could see Ed Dodds in Los Angeles. That would make me a little bit upset. So we are live here on the Raiders Report, and remember, when breaking news happens, we go live. That's why you hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Let's go to DW Wilder. WTF. I mean, this one was a surprise. I'm also angry on the way that the Raiders have hired this entire hiring process. Like, you had Champ Kelly in the meeting rooms with a bunch of these OCs, with a bunch of these initial head coaching candidates. I get it. It was always probably expected that they were going to go with Antonio Pierce. But why have Champ Kelly sitting down in those meetings with Chris Richard, with Leslie Frazier, when that's not the route they ended up going? To me, what sounds like ended up happening here, and I made this example last week, it sounds like Mark Davis saw the answer of A, Champ Kelly, B, Ed Dodds, and was like, these are the right answers, and just sat there and waited and waited and waited and waited, and then was like, crap, second guess myself. I'm just going to go with Tom Telesco. I am very shocked by this move. I will be reaching out to a few Raiders players to see what they have to say, because I've already heard back from a few, and they're not thrilled about this hire either. Let's go to Dirty Mike and the boys. What's up, man? I know how we all feel, but let's just have faith. I'm going to have faith. There is nothing that is going to take away from this offseason, to me, unless you do not address the quarterback position. Me looking forward to this offseason more than any offseason I've ever looked forward to. And the reason why that I say that is I've had to deal with Josh McDaniels, all of his ums. I had to deal with that whole regime that they ended up bringing in. I like Dave Ziegler. I think Dave Ziegler did an okay job. The problem that Ziegler had was he tied himself to a clown like Josh McDaniels. I'm still going to ride my high horse. I'm still hoping that this regime does the right things, but now it's time to get to work. Now you got Telesco. Now you got Antonio Pierce. Now we need to bring in a good OC, and you better have a quarterback plan, because that's my biggest thing. If he can figure out a way to get a quarterback, I'm in. I'm in. Let's go to John Rodriguez. Raiders better go after PG. I mean, Patrick Graham, the only way he's leaving, I would say, is if he gets a head coaching job with another team. I do know the Seahawks are a legitimate threat to take away PG, but Patrick Graham, unless he gets a head coaching job, he's not going anywhere. Let's go to DJ Faye's connections to Mack if we have money. I don't see Khalil Mack coming back to the Raiders as much as I would love for this to end up going down. Like, if I'm Las Vegas, and I've said it once, I've said it again, if I'm going to allocate my money at the GM position, so Telesco, hopefully you're listening, if I'm going to go out and spend big on defense, it's going to be at defensive tackle. I'm going to go out and get a Justin Matabuke. I'm going to go out and get a Christian Wilkins. I want somebody that I can put next to Tyree Wilson, take a little bit of pressure off him, build that interior line a little bit more. You're losing Adam Butler. Let Malcolm Kuntz be the athlete that he is. Let Max Crosby be the athlete that he is. And then that's when Patrick Graham's defense is at its best. I want to spend big on DT and free agency. Real Cowboy, what's up, man? He helped hire Staley in L.A. Maybe it's a good thing we hired a head coach before a GM. You know, I think when you look at the ups and the downs of Telesco, there are obviously misses. And you're right. I do think that this probably is one of the reasons why Antonio Pierce got hired first. And he has done some good things. He's done some bad things. But my biggest issue is I just don't think it was the best hire out there. Like, my anger is not coming from any place else of it's just not the hire that I would have done. And when I'm up here on this show, I try to be as authentic as humanly possible. Like, how can you hire Antonio Pierce and not either give the job to Champ Kelly or then Ed Dodds? Like, it just, to me, Mark went with his gut with Tom Telesco, and I'm sorry, when Mark Davis trusts his gut, I don't usually like what it is. It's usually a lot of rumblings and smells like a porta potty. Man, at least we should get our 2 comp picks. I mean, Champ has to get hired as a GM, and I said this yesterday on the show. When the Carolina Panthers, they hired their GM, I was under the expectation if Champ Kelly did not get a job, that the Carolina Panthers would have been the team that was the most likely to hire him. Like, now I don't see that happening. I don't know what team ends up hiring Champ Kelly to be their GM. Yes, I want it to happen, but now you're letting somebody go out the door that this team bonded with, that Antonio Pierce had a great relationship with, that Max Crosby sat up on his podcast and said, I want Champ Kelly back. Like, that's why I'm more upset about this entire rundown. Ivan, I read he left L.A. with a lot of financial problems. Tons. I mean, this was the dude that said, I'm going to try to build a Madden roster, which I'm not going to lie, I respect. Like, all right, let's try to bring in as many big names player as humanly possible. It doesn't matter if they don't fit. They're the big names. Pay a lot of money, move money around, and if the Raiders are responsible and they don't allow him to touch contracts, this could be crazy enough to work. It's a home run swing. It really is. I just hope that we connect. Nico, keep Jerry Tillery away from Telesco. Oh, Tillery and Telesco, they do not get along at all. Tillery has made it very, very obvious to him that they do not get along. And like, somebody just DM'd me on Instagram and said, Mitch, what's the craziest thing that you think that could happen with Telesco? And honest to God, I don't think it's going to happen, but the craziest thing to my mind, imagine a world where the Chargers, they hired Jim Harbaugh to be their head coach. Ed Dodds goes there to be a GM. Harbaugh says, I want my own quarterback. Herbert in Las Vegas. That's the craziest thing that comes to my mind. OC, so if Champ Kelly gets a GM job, we get 2 3s right. That is correct. We get 2 third-round comps. They're going to be after pick 100. Raider Smoke 89, Papaya Man, still wouldn't have liked Kelly or Dodds, but Telesco has drafted really well, and it's not his fault the coaches sucked. It is part of his fault. He was the one that hired him. He built a roster that could compete at the high level, just my thought. Like, I don't disagree with that. And again, he's done a good job building teams that have a lot of star power. But also, though, like, and this is the problem with, you look at the Raiders last season. They don't spend anything on the defensive side of the football, but they were smart enough to find players that fit their scheme. What's really going to hurt the Raiders is if Telesco does what he did with the Chargers and just tries to put a bunch of big-name players on a roster and says, all right, like, let's make it happen. That's not how good teams are worked. Like, you got to be able to find good fits on your team. Yes, it's important to add talent, but he's just got to do a better job, man. Jarrett, why not Ed Dodds from the Colts? He will be fired in 2 years. If Kelly had the backing of the players, should have kept him bottom again. We'll see what ends up happening. I am surprised, just like everybody else here. Patrick, I believe Champ will still be on the staff and in the building. I don't think that he leaves. To me, I think of this Champ Kelly situation a lot like the Rich Bisaccia situation. Because if I'm Rich Bisaccia, I went 7-5 with the Raiders, and then you decide to go with Josh McDaniels over me. Like, I get the fact that he wasn't the coach, but put yourself in Kelly's shoes. You're telling me you're going to hire Antonio Pierce, but you're not going to hire me. And Kelly's going to look at that as saying, well, wait a minute here. I would like to put my name into this a little bit. And all the reports were it was going to be me. It was going to be me. You literally had me sitting down in interviews with head coaches. And now you're going to go in a totally different direction. Like, what exactly happened in the last week? That's what I would want to know. And if I'm Champ Kelly, I'm feeling a certain type of way. Dylan, does this hire make any clarity on who OC will be? I don't necessarily think that that's the case. Like, in perfect world, Telesco tries to find another option here comparable to Herbert. What I don't want to happen is Telesco being like, all right, Herbert was from Oregon. We found him. Let's go now and try to get Bo Nix. I'm telling you right now, if Telesco says, I want Jaden Daniels, and I want somebody like Caleb Williams, I want somebody like Drake May, let's make it happen. Hire a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, and let's this freaking thing ride, man. Drafting Justin Herbert, thoughts on drafting Bo at 13 overall? I'm telling you right now, I was this angry when the Raiders drafted Cleveland Ferrell at 4. I was this angry when the Raiders drafted Damon Arnett at 19. I was this angry when the Raiders drafted Henry Ruggs. I was this angry for Leatherwood. I can go on and on. I'm telling you right now, if they drafted Bo Nix at 13, it would be up here. Because to me, Bo has you cannot draft Bo Nix in round 1. Doug, Mitch, you think we should keep Champ in some way now, or is he gone? If you can try to retain him, yes. I think that you should figure out a way to retain him. However, though, and, I'm not as upset about Champ. To me, I feel like we really missed the boat on Ed Dodds. Like, I wanted Ed Dodds. Ed Dodds wanted to be a Raider. He even said, I wanted to finish where I started. Like, Champ Kelly's, I think, would have done a good job. But missing out on Dodds is where I am really, really disappointed in Mark Davis's decision. Like, how do you not choose Champ Kelly? Like, if it would have been not choosing Champ Kelly, we would have went with Ed Dodds. I'm up here celebrating, doing beer bongs left and right. But you settled for Telesco to me because you were afraid to pair somebody with Antonio Pierce. Mark, if you're going to be a man and you're going to hire Antonio Pierce, have confidence in AP because this hiring here of Telesco is almost like you don't have the full confidence in AP. You gave him the job. You hired him. I don't want to hear I don't want to hire a new head coach. I don't want to hire a new GM together. Like, if that's the case, then you shouldn't have hired AP in the first place. Like, if you're not going to have the utmost confidence in the guy you're hiring at head coach, why even hire him in the first place? Batman, I hate this hire so much. 11 years, 3 playoffs, 0 playoff wins, 0 depth on the Chargers teams. Part of the reasons why the Chargers did not have good depth is because they would spend big. And there's also the playoff wins. I hear you. I do think that might have been a little bit more with the head coaching, and we'll see what ends up happening, man. Real Cowboy, Davis's gut feeling is as reliable as his barber. You're probably not wrong there. Drew, do you think AP signed off? Also, return of the Mac. Khalil Mack's not coming back. I don't see how that's going to happen from a financial standpoint. Do I think AP signed off on it? I'm not sure. I mean, AP made it clear that I'm pretty sure he wanted back Champ Kelly. I know multiple Raiders players made it very clear that they wanted back Champ Kelly. This one just kind of sounds like Mark did what Mark Davis wanted to do, and when that has happened in the past, that usually hasn't resulted in a good thing. I caught a similar vibe with this hire as they hired McDaniels. Not as bad, but similar. Not even close. As much as I am upset about this move, like, to me, Telesco does give you an opportunity to swing for the fences. Josh McDaniels was a fail from the start. I mean, that one had a 0% chance of hitting. Do you, Telesco, plan for quarterback was more aggressive and sold Mark? Hopefully. Like, that's the one part of this conversation that I can't really speak on because I'm not in that room. But I'm telling you right now, if Tom Telesco went up to Mark Davis and said, hey, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure we're drafted in the top 3 to get Drake May, Jaden Daniels, or Caleb Williams, all in. I'm all in on it. If Ed Dodds said, I'm not going to do that, if Champ Kelly said, I'm not going to do that, then this was the right hire. But until I know that, I'm a little bit on edge right now. Mark Davis felt he needed to have a decision that he made. You know what? When you're the owner, you got billions of dollars, I guess sometimes You can do it. All right, y'all, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to get into all the breaking news here around the Raiders hiring Tom Telesco, and if you haven't, make sure you click that like button, whether you like the hire or whether you don't like the hire. Here's the thing, man. We're a family through and through. If you bleed silver and black, we're going to keep on rocking and rolling with this thing, but the only way that we can get better, I think, as a team, the way that we get better as a fan base is let's have some honest conversations this offseason. This is the most important offseason that the Raiders have had in 20 years, in my opinion. You hired an interim head coach like Antonio Pierce. You're bringing in a guy like Tom Telesco. You have the opportunity to find a franchise quarterback. You have so much ability and salary cap space. You have the draft picks. This is the most important offseason. So if you believe in that, let's get this thing going right here. We're also going to get into the GM stuff, and then we're going to talk a lot about the OC candidates that have emerged recently. Chugs, you ready? Let's get this thing going right now. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, with some breaking news. The Las Vegas Raiders have hired Tom Telesco for their GM role. This is a little bit of a surprising bit of news here because I think a lot of people around the nation expected it either to be Champ Kelly or it to either be Ed Dodds. But essentially what has happened, and this was the topic that we talked about Monday here live on the Raiders Report, was there was a lot of rumors circulating around the idea that he was nervous, he being Mark Davis, was nervous to hire a first-time GM and to hire a first-time head coach, which is ultimately the reason why I believe the Raiders decided to go with Telesco over Dodds and decided to go with him over somebody like Champ Kelly. When you really think about the ins and outs of all the hiring processes, it was Dodds got 2 interviews, Kelly got 2 interviews, and then Telesco also got 2 interviews. Mark Davis claims that he didn't want 2 people, head coach, GM, to both be rookies. Like, if I'm going to spin this in a positive light, because people who follow me on social media, I wasn't crazy about the hire, more just because how do you not bring in Champ Kelly when you bring in Antonio Pierce? / if you're not going to stick with Champ Kelly, you should have went with Ed Dodds as the better person. Is this a home run swing? Oh, yeah. If Telesco works, because some of the teams that he's been able to build with the Chargers were very, very freaking good. But man, oh man, it is a big-time risk here by Mark Davis. So I want to know from the entire nation, this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. Give me a Y for yes, or I want you to type your N for no. Was this the right move by hiring Tom Telesco? Off the jump, no, it would not have been the hire that I would have gone. I would have said Ed Dodds would have been choice number 1. Number 2 would have ended up being Champ Kelly. Number 3 out of those final 3 contestants would have been Tom Telesco. But again, if I'm going to spin this in a positive light, the positive light that I'm going to spin it is Telesco was able to find a quarterback like Justin Herbert. I'm telling you right now, I was not in the meeting. Nobody was in the meeting. If Telesco looked at Mark Davis dead in the eyes and said, hey, my plan is to get us in the top 3 of the NFL draft. We're going to get a Drake Mayock, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Ed Dodds said that that's not their plan. If Champ Kelly said that's not my plan, well then Telesco was the right hire. He was the Chargers GM from 2013 to 2023. He was fired this season, and you know, it's kind of funny. The last time Tom Telesco was a GM in the NFL, the Los Angeles Chargers lost 63-21 to the Las Vegas Raiders. But he did build talented rosters. However, they always underperformed. And for people that watched my GM candidate rankings, I mean, I'll be honest with you. He was the last guy that I wanted because he was awful, and I mean god-awful with contracts. The only way that I am going to say that this does have a chance is if they let Telesco have nothing to do with contracts. He cannot be the one responsible making deals, extensions, can't do it because the Los Angeles Chargers are in absolute cap hell right now because of a lot of the deals Telesco ended up doing. But the bottom line is this, I promise you this, when the Raiders, they hire a GM, we go live. When breaking news happens, we go live. That's what we do here. Whether you like the news, whether you don't, family, we talk about it. You're going to get videos every single day. You're going to get 4 live shows a week at this point. This is the off season. If you're looking for free agency videos, I got you covered. Draft videos, I got you covered. If you just want to sit down and have a beer once in a while, believe me, I got you covered here. So coming up here is going to be the latest on the Raiders OC search because now finally the Raiders can start going in that direction. Like if there is one very positive spin that I can really put on this, it's all right, now we got AP. Now we got Tom Telesco as the GM. Let's lay out a blueprint and let's fix this offense and let's get this team on the right track. The longer and longer and longer you would have waited, then your competitive advantage would have gone away. So now you have your GM, now you have your head coach. Let's put out a blueprint. Let's figure out a way how we can get a franchise quarterback. Because if you're watching Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and you think that Aiden O'Connell can get it done, good luck, man, because I know one thing. I definitely do not think that. I do got to give a shout-out, though, to today's sponsor, Game Time. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I don't know about you. I hate planning things in advance. But one thing that I do like, I'm planning on going out to Las Vegas for the big game. And I'm going to be out there, and Chugs and I, we're going to be looking at comedies. We're going to be looking at concerts. And if you want to download the Game Time app, $20 off with code RaidersChat. But guess what? I got an even more special deal going down here. If anybody does plan on going to the big game, use code Vegas100. I'm going to say it again. Use promo code Vegas100 to get $100 off a purchase of a ticket to the big game, valid for the big game. This offer is also available to all of our users, not just the new one. So maybe you go out to Las Vegas for the big game. You're like, all right, I'm going to watch the Vegas Knights. Maybe you want to go to a little bit of a comedy showdown. Maybe you want to go to an event that's under $50. Like, think about this. If you go to the big game and you use code Vegas100, you save $100. Well, you can go watch something else in Vegas or get a few extra beers for the big game itself. Bottom line is last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Download the Game Time app. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. All right, y'all, so now let's transition here a little bit to the latest on the Raiders OC search, because this is where you have to go with this conversation. You locked in your GM, you locked in your head coach. As it stands right now, there have been 4 OCs that are officially going to be interviewing with the Las Vegas Raiders. The most recent, or one of the most recent, Dan Pitcher, quarterback coach here of the Cincinnati Bengals. He will interview for the Raiders OC job at some point this week. The Bengals quarterback coach since 2020. And personally, I'm not going to sit up here and say what he was able to do with Joe Burrow. To me, the more reason why I have confidence in a guy like Pitcher is because of the work that he did with Jake Browning this past season. I mean, to me, thought he did a really, really, really solid job with Browning. When the Bengals lost Burrow, everybody thought, all right, season's over. We're going to lock it up. No, we're going to move on. But Pitcher is an interesting person to keep in mind. Browning having over a 70% completion percentage, started in 7 games. And when you watch those games, he was able to move the football pretty effectively. Their offensive line isn't great. Yes, they have a lot of extremely talented receivers and a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins. But Chase missed a lot of these games here. Yeah, you got a good running back and Mixon on top of that. But to me, if you can turn a quarterback like Jake Browning, what could you do with somebody, I don't know, like a bigger time QB? Now, obviously, you got a guy like Burrow. And to me, one of the things that I really, really want the Raiders to do on the offensive side of the football is add, I'll say this, as many cooks to the kitchen as possible. I think when you look at what the Los Angeles Rams did a few years ago when they hired Sean McVay to be that first-time head coach, they loaded that offensive side of the football with people that previously were OCs, and then you had a lot of great minds. And to me, the more great minds that you keep together is definitely going to trend in the right direction. I will admit, if the Raiders also were to bring in somebody like a Trey Brown to be like an assistant GM, I do think Dan Pitcher would be somebody pretty intriguing to keep in mind, considering the fact that Trey Brown has worked with the Cincinnati Bengals. Another person, this name dropped today in terms of a Raiders OC candidate, Alex Van Pelt, former offensive coordinator and quarterback coach of the Cleveland Browns. So he's going to interview for the Raiders OC job. The reason why I'm intrigued by this one is because if you're the Raiders, you do have to take into consideration what some of your players are going to say. Obviously, Mark Davis has already done that. Davis said, all right, Crosby, you want me to keep Antonio Pierce? Bet. Well, Davante Adams has also made it pretty clear that he wants to be involved in some way, shape, or another of the quarterback decision. Josh McDaniels, he ignored him last year. Guess what, though? Davante Adams has a relationship already with Alex Van Pelt from their time with the Green Bay Packers back from 2014 to 2017. So here's the thing. The last time, though, that Van Pelt was an OC, and if you're going to bring in him, the reason why this is another intriguing name is because he's going to run the football. He's going to run the football. Antonio Pierce is going to want to run the football. I think that's one of the reasons why they brought in Luke Getsy as well, to just get a little bit of insight here. But he was the OC for the Bills in 2009. Buffalo averaged 16.1 points per game. That was 28th in the NFL. Many, many years ago, But what's important here is you bring in a guy like this, he's going to try to run the rock. So as it stands right now, the Raiders have 4 OCs that they are planning to interview. There's going to be more names. Like, I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to be a name that gets released here very soon. I had a source tell me, watch out for Arthur Smith. That's going to be more than likely a name that the Raiders go out and interview. Like, out of these names on here, it's Zach Robinson for me, and it's not close. However, Robinson is not the candidate that I think is the most likely to be hired as the Raiders OC. That person is in this video, and if you want to go check it out, it is in the comments. It is in the description of this video here, my top 10 coaches for the Raiders. I'll admit, when I recorded this video, pitcher was not named yet, and then same with Alex also was not named. So those names are not going to be in this video. Just a little keep you in the loop there. All right, here's the last thing. I'm going to wrap up this show because, again, we are live here on the Raiders Report. If you don't watch this live, pull up to the stream. It's getting a little wild. We got over 4,000 people here in the chat. Coming up, though, Jim Harbaugh. Is he coming to the AFC West? Like, I know this is a crazy, crazy thing to think about, but there's a lot of smoke, and I'm thinking it might end up going down today that Harbaugh's joining the AFC West and joining Tom Telesco's old team. Before I get into that, though, is anybody going to be out in Las Vegas during the Super Bowl? Because guess what? Jeremy Chuggs and I, we're going to be live in Las Vegas at the Ahern Hotel. Here is the address. We're going to be doing tons of giveaways. There's going to be some Raiders players there. There's going to be some signed jerseys. We're going to have a lot of drinks, a lot of food flowing. From what I understand, it's the first 100 people that pull up. You're going to be able to get a seat. It's going to be unlike anything that we have ever done here before. If you want to know what the venue looks like, I mean, here's the hotel. Look where we're going to be. You're going to have the big screen for the game. There's going to be a big screen for the Raiders Report. There's going to be people pulling up, doing boots with us. There's going to be people pulling up, doing beer bongs with us. We're going to be giving out shots. There's a full bar, and I'm telling you right now, if you enjoy what Jeremy and I do for our watch parties, Raiders game day, playoff game, God, I hope it's not the Niners or the Chiefs, but if it is, we're still going to have a good time together. Tons and tons of giveaways, and I've been talking to a lot of people that I think are, let's just say this, you guys would like to meet a lot of the people I think are going to end up pulling up. So bottom line, if you don't have any Super Bowl plans, Ahern Hotel, Sunday, February 11th, 2 p.m. Pacific time. If you need to give them a call and say, hey, what's the lowdown on the Raiders Report? Give them a call. Say, I want to reserve a spot. If they tell you, well, wait a minute here, just tell them, I want to reserve a spot for the Raiders Report. I hope to see you there. It's going to be on. It's going to be popping. It's going to be a hell of a time. It is kid-friendly. Somebody asked me, Mitch, is it kid-friendly? The answer to that is yes. All right, here, Jim Harbaugh. Is he coming to the AFC West? I do think that he's going to end up being the Los Angeles Chargers head coach. And now the fact that Ed Dodds is not going to be the GM here of the Raiders, there's a chance that I think Dodds could go over to the Chargers, and that could be a bit of an issue for the Silver and Black. There's a report that came out today. Chargers and Jim Harbaugh are in striking distance of getting a deal done. This is from Mike Garafolo. Harbaugh is meeting with the Chargers again today. And the fact that the Chargers have also interviewed Ed Dodds for GM, I'm telling you right now, Ed Dodds did not turn down the Raiders GM job. If you would have asked Dodds where he wanted to go, it was with Las Vegas. However, now, we know that Harbaugh and Dodds have a lot of ties together, and I think a really bad situation could be if Harbaugh and Dodds team up for the Chargers. It was also reported today by Aaron Wilson that this is the expected staff for the Chargers. It'd be Jim Harbaugh as head coach, Greg Roman at OC, which I'll be frank with you, I think Greg Roman, pairing him with Justin Herbert does not make a lot of sense, and it almost makes me want to speculate, are they going to trade Justin Herbert? You know what, Telesco, bring in Herbert. I'm okay with it. Jesse Minter for DC, and then Jay Harbaugh as the special teams coach. Again, y'all, we are live here on the Raiders Report, and anytime big-time news happens, we do our best to break it all down for you. The Las Vegas Raiders hired Tom Telesco, and the reason they did, his experience, the Chargers roster and their makeup, and Telesco's knowledge of the AFC West that is now being reported by Albert Breer. If you want to hit that subscribe button, do it. If you made it this far in the video, I want to know where my real ones are at. Do you guys want to party? I know there's a very mixed bag right now amongst the nation, but you know what? Anytime big news happens, I want to party here on the Raiders Report, so let's get it going. All right, Josh T, he has a face you want to punch just like McDaniels. If that's the case, then I feel like that you think my face is very punchable too, because if I shaved my face and if you turn me into a 50-year-old man, I mean, that's me right there. So Josh T, punchable face for me. What up, Sean John? Tell us why we should like this hire. It's a home run swing. He has gotten it right in the draft at times with certain players. Like, he's found really good value down the draft board. Recently, getting Justin Herbert, that's a win. Getting a player like Rashawn Slater, that's a win. He has not been afraid to throw big names, and it hasn't worked well. The reason why it does make me nervous is because I'm going to say 0 playoff wins or 1 playoff win from 2013 to 2023. Like, teams, head coaches, quarterbacks, GMs, you are going to be judged based on your wins and losses. You are going to be judged based off of what you do in the playoffs. And Telesco's never been able to get there. Like, again, I get that he's been a GM before. He was a GM for 10 years, but Dodds was the right hire. Let's go to Nico. Isn't Champ still under contract as an assistant GM? Yes. He is the assistant GM until he isn't the assistant GM. It's kind of just like Patrick Graham, where Patrick Graham is the DC until he's not the DC. But the problem with this whole situation is, if you're Champ Kelly, do you feel a type of way? Because I would personally. Like, I would feel like you guys kind of stabbed me in the back a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Let's go to Raider Smoke 89. Telesco, AP, Daniels for years to come. Have faith. If this happens, I am all in. Like, let's get it straight here. If this ends up happening, I am all in. You know who else is all in? And a guy who always wants to party. And you know what? I didn't bring any beers here. Do you think you could grab me a few Happy Dads? Maybe a beer bong or two? Let's get a little bit rowdy here in the studio. If you want to shout out here on the Raiders Report, spam David Zahn, Mount Raider More Legend, because David Zahn, bang! Did someone say bang? I'm good with the hire at least. We have someone to state, get ton stuff done. And if we end up with Herbert, I'm all about that life. I wanted to draft him like some people. If you can end up finding, these are icicles. Wow. Can you grab me a Merbonga too? I know it's a lot to ask. I mean, I'm kind of with you though. If, like right now, it starts. Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco, you will be judged based off what you do at the quarterback position this offseason. Like, you can build an incredible roster. If you go into this year with Aiden O'Connell as your QB, it's a fail. If you go into the draft with nobody, no plan, and then you miss on those big three, and then you end up taking a Bo Nix, a J.J. McCarthy, or a Michael Penix Jr. at 13, I'm going to be very mad. I'm telling you right now, I am going to be extremely, extremely mad. All right, let's do a beer bong here. Shout out to David Zahn Chugs. You think you give a few shout outs to everybody spamming Zahn down below for me?
Let's go! I see Joe, Dave, Raider Nax, Sienna. I see David, VT Holmes, Agent Red, Esteban, David, Efren, Michael, Jerome. I see RF. I see Striker, Raider J. I see Martin, NFC, Romeo, Girl's Dad, Wild Juan 14, Patrick B, Blue Richards, Ronnie, Gilbert, Ron, Sam, Striker, Dylan, Duval, Lloyd, Griffin, Jesse, Miggy, Ron.
Gryffindor.
20 points for Gryffindor.
I will say this. I do have other segments that are planned for today's live show. So if you're curious of the latest around Devontae Adams and Kirk Cousins, we'll talk about that. I'll also go into Mel Kiper's latest mock draft. So we're not only just going to sit up here and talk Tom Telesco for GM. On top of that, I like to do duck races. If you don't know what the hell a duck race is, I'll explain it to you after. I'd say this real quick. If Dodds Harbaugh were a package deal, then what? They weren't. So I can promise you that. Ed Dodds, I heard from multiple sources, was willing to be the GM of the Raiders with Antonio Pierce. I promise you, they were not a package deal. If you want to try to win some money here on today's show, 50-50 raffle, $20 Venmo to get in, and we're going to do it at the very, very end of today's show. When Antonio Pierce was hired, we gave 3 people over $1,000. 3 people, including Matt Fluhey. Bye! What's up, Fluhee? I am okay with the hire. Hope it works. Do you think you could find a way to get Jaden Daniels? If so, what do you think it will cost? If you want to pull in maybe some of our old trade graphics, I don't feel like we're going to get this one. We're going to get this question probably multiple times. What's interesting to hear is this, though. Like, I'm telling you right now, there's a 75% chance that Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May are gone in the first 3 picks. Like, that's what it's more than likely going to be. And if you're the Las Vegas Raiders, like, the only way that you're going to have a legit shot at getting one of those quarterbacks is trading up into the top 3 before the NFL draft. That's also better said than done, right? Like, I don't think the Commanders trade pick 2. I don't think the Bears trade pick 1. I don't think that the Patriots trade pick 3. Like, and why you can't wait until the draft is because if you wait for the draft, okay? If you wait for the draft, that means you're missing out on Kirk Cousins. You're missing out on Justin Fields. You're missing out on Russell Wilson. You're missing out on all these other quarterbacks that you could potentially have in free agency. And then it comes draft night, and then you don't have one of those top 3 quarterbacks. That's when panic sets in. When panic sets in, bad decisions are made. And a bad decision would be to take a Bo Nix, a J.J. McCarthy, a Michael Penix Jr. at 13. Like, none of those quarterbacks, in my opinion, for the Raiders, you should draft in round 1. The only way I might be okay with it is if you're sitting there at pick 13 and a team like, I don't even know, whoever finished late in the, finished in the playoffs, I don't know, trades up to number 13, you're able to get a high number 2, and maybe you get that late 1, and then you end up stacking it with, let's say, Bo Nix. You find yourself an elite corner, and you find yourself an elite defensive tackle, 3 picks in the top 44. Then you know what? I might be able to wrap my mind around it a little bit more, but even that, though, like, that to me should be, like, plan A, B, and C should be one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft. Plan D should probably be Justin Fields. Plan F is probably Kirk Cousins. Plan whatever the next letter in the alphabet is, Russell Wilson, right? Like, you're looking at Bo Nix, like that's got to be really, really far down here on the overall list of what the heck you're doing, because I don't love it. So if you're wondering, again, what it exactly would cost to be able to get up here to get one of these quarterbacks, this is what I believe it ends up costing. Now, this is a trade from somebody who's very well tied in with the NFL draft, and this is what they told me it would end up costing. The Raiders get the number 1 pick. It would cost you 3 picks this year, 3 picks next year, and then a starting caliber player. It's not a Devontae Adams. It's not a Max Crosby. I honestly don't even think it's somebody like a Nate Hobbs, like a standout player like that. Think of it as a Divine Diablo, a Jacoby Myers, somebody in that type of realm. Nate Hobbs, I mean, if you told me I got to trade Nate Hobbs to get this deal done, I'm doing it, right? If you can find your franchise quarterback, it is worth it every single time. To get up to number 2, this is what I would told that it's going to cost. Basically what I just mentioned there, just minus your 2nd round pick in this year's draft. And then if you want to get up to number 3, it would be your 1st and your 3rd this year, a 1st round pick in 2025, and then a starting caliber player. Is it a lot to give up? Sure. But also, though, and I always say this on the show, so hopefully Telesco gets it right. If you told me right now I can trade Tyree Wilson and Alex Leatherwood to help get up there, guess what? I'm doing it every single time of the week. When you find your franchise quarterback, and it is so important for the Raiders to do that, that's what you got to do. You got to get up there. What's up, King? Wanted Kelly, but at least they might get those 2 draft extra picks. I see this as a high risk but high reward. I do agree that it is a high risk, high reward. Also, this one here goes out to Fluhee. Also, I see Patrick B's telling him I owe a boot, which I'll do a boot a little bit later on here, Mr. B, if somebody wants to go fill one up for me. But we got a lot of ins and outs going on here. So we'll see. King, though, cheers, man. Remember, the only way you get 2 third-round comp picks for Champ Kelly is if he gets hired to be a GM somewhere else. But as it stands right now, he is still the Raiders' assistant GM.
Wild one.
Yes, I literally answered it. He is still the assistant GM. However, just like Patrick Graham is still technically the Raiders' DC, I could see Kelly being a little bit upset about how everything went down. And I don't blame him. Here's my question to you. Why for yes and for no? Do you blame him? Do you blame Champ Kelly if he was angry? If Champ Kelly wanted to leave, do you blame him? Why for yes and for no? It's an honest question.
Well, you can't blame somebody for how they feel.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. As an adult, you can. Absolutely. Sir Chai.
I'm upset. Well, I'm upset that you're upset.
Sometimes that's going to happen. Raiders should have hired Ice Cube instead of Tom.
Probably not.
I'm not going to go with that one. I mean, I think Ice Cube makes great music, no doubt about it, but no. Xavier, I think it's because Tom is no longer in Cali. He's in Las Vegas. AP will energize the fan base and players. Hope he doesn't break the cap. He cannot have any responsibilities towards the cap. He needs to be able to find the right players.
No cap.
But again, the way that they will be judged is at the quarterback position. Let me take this one back, and then I'm going to answer this question here. And you know what? I think it's a good question for the nation if you want to go get me my boot. If you don't know what a boot is, it's 3. Patrick, we're going to do, you want to do Happy Dads. Happy Dad boot. That's probably the easiest thing. Would you want the Raiders to trade for Justin Herbert? If I told you what it costs to get Justin Herbert is the exact same as what it's going to cost to get up into the top 3 picks, plus, remember, Herbert's getting $50 million a year, would you want him to do it? Yes or no? I'll give you my answer here. I think the other part is this. It's, what's a good way to put it? I'll get in this in a second. Hang on. Oh, man, if you're wondering what the heck is this guy doing beer bongs for, every time somebody bangs here on the Raiders board, it's a $100 super chat. I'll do a beer bong. I'm here to party with the nation. I want to make this an Oakland tailgate every day. In terms of trading for Justin Herbert, like, this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion because I'm looking at the chat right now, seeing a lot of no's. The answer to this should be yes. If you told me right now you could have a borderline top 5, he's definitely top 10 quarterback in the NFL. He's got all the talent in the world. You told me I get Justin Herbert with this Raiders team. I mean, that is a Super Bowl playoff caliber type of team. I get it. Herbert's got to prove it. But what's really going to be interesting is, and the reason why this isn't even an idea is because if Harbaugh goes to the Chargers, which, again, I think if Harbaugh's smart, he sticks with Justin Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You stick with Herbert. If Harbaugh goes, I want my own QB, and he's going to bring in a guy like Greg Roman, who I really do not think fits Justin Herbert's skill set all that well. And if Herbert's available, if you're the Raiders, you absolutely pull the trigger. Do I think it costs a lot more? I'm telling you what, I bet you it costs the same to almost go up to pick number 1. It's going to cost an arm and a leg, no doubt about it. But Herbert is worth it to me. He's that good of a quarterback. He's fringe top 5. Herbert's a choke artist from Joe. Or the Chargers a choke artist. Like, is it that environment? It's a question. Lamonte, did he find Herbert? If so, nothing else matters, and Chargers always had good players, just sucky coaches. You could say that. You could say that, hey, he was able to bring in a lot of talent, but he was unable to make the right hire at head coach. Absolutely, you could say that. Hellcat, agree he has drafted and traded well, but that's it. It needs to start resulting in wins, right? To me, you need to be able to figure out how to bring as many wins as humanly possible. And if Telesco has a good eye for talent, well, let's go. Let's build this team from the ground up. Like, you need to be able to have more success. It's so big, man. This year is so big at being able to find a QB. And like, I wonder, I wish I was a part of that interview process to know what Telesco said to make the Raiders go from Champ Kelly, who it sounded like he was a slam dunk, to now with them going with Tom Telesco. Dr. K, now we go, let's go, Raiders! All right, I see Strami here. Remember, y'all, if you want to get those questions, comments on the show, hashtag Raiders, or you can super chat. I'm going to look right now to see how many people we got in this duck race here. Remember, if you want to get in, it is a $20 Venmo, and we're going to do this at the very, very end of today's show. So the first person in, which really shouldn't surprise anybody, it's Mr. Matt Fluhey. You in? And if you're wondering, Mitch, what are you going to do? I do a duck race. I'm not going to lie. For anybody that's watched the show, it's electric. It's going to be some of the most fun that you guys have. That I can guarantee. So again, $20 you in, Fluhey you in again, Rosario in, James Bowman in. You all right? And then Rosario Morella you in. Let's go to Strami. To be frank, I heard Champ didn't want to draft a QB. Still don't like the hire. If that's the case, which, again, I wouldn't be surprised about because I talked to multiple people, and I mean multiple people out there, and it sounded like Champ Kelly wanted Justin Fields. So if Champ Kelly wanted Justin Fields, right, like, that's a problem. To be frank, I heard Champ didn't want to draft. If that's the case, and it comes out that Champ Kelly didn't want to draft a quarterback, that screams to me Champ Kelly would have gone out and tried to get Justin Fields. And to me, that's settling. I didn't want Justin Fields. I wanted one of the top quarterbacks. Now, like I said before, if you were unable to get one of those top 3 guys, then I do think Justin Fields would have been the best option. So if that comes out to be true, and Telesco says, I'm trading up into the draft, that's the right hire. That would not have been the right hire. Legit. Decades think he got the job because of a quarterback. Sorry. Deadass think he got the job because of QB plan. Well, let's make it happen. Like, if there's one thing that Telesco can say that Dodds cannot say, and same thing even with Champ Kelly. Champ Kelly was a part of the regime that drafted Justin Fields. You look at the Indianapolis Colts, they haven't gotten the quarterback position right many years. Like, think about how many free agent QBs Indianapolis went through to get to where they are now. Yeah, they drafted Anthony Richardson, and Richardson looks like he's the right guy. But Anthony Richardson ain't Justin Herbert. I mean, Justin Herbert, that's what Telesco got right. Dude, if they trade up to number 1, I'm in. I am so in. Eric, hope he pulls a Mayo and hints at drafting a quarterback. You can hint at it, you just got to get it right. Because what I'm not going to like, and I'm telling you right now, I am going to be a pissed off individual if the Raiders take Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr. at 13. MT makes me a bit nervous that Chargers have had trouble finishing games and completely gave up last year. Hopefully we get PG back and build the defense. If you hire Telesco and Patrick Graham does not come back, I agree with this. That makes me even more worried about this whole thing. Philip, passive-aggressive move. Hope for the best. That's all you can do. Hope for the best. OC, has CK interviewed for a GM position anywhere? Yes, he interviewed with the Carolina Panthers. However, Carolina has already hired their GM. Like, to me, the team that I thought he had a chance to go to was, in fact, the Carolina Panthers. But now, being where it is at, no, they've already hired a guy. Eric, shout out to you, man. A blue thumbs up. Shout out to you, iGuns. Raider. Oh, it's a blue thumbs down with nope written on it. That's not good then. Raider Ben, he knows the AFC West. He will bust KC as ass. Does he, though? Like, has anybody from the AFC beaten the Chiefs? Like, just because you have worked in the AFC West doesn't mean that you're going to compete in the AFC West. Like, the Chargers and the Chiefs, let's be real, the Chiefs have owned it. If we go free agent quarterback, a cornball diva like Wilson on a cheap deal, if he is available, would be ideal. He could be a stopgap until a round 2 or 3 quarterback is ready to start. He is still top 15. Can't see what that back part says. Cousins going to cost a lot more money than Russell Wilson will. That I can promise you. And it is an option, and I do think the Raiders should look into Russell Wilson as being an option this year, whether you like that or not. If Wilson is the answer for a few years and you're able to have a quarterback come in and learn behind Russ, sure, it can be an option there, but you're going to be making some people angry, bringing in Russell Wilson. That's just the truth. Sorry, Zon, pick 3 only if we got a third-round comp pick. No on Herbert. Give me Fields if Chicago doesn't trade. Pick 1. And we give up a third rounder. So you're telling me you would rather have Justin Fields than Justin Herbert. I just want to make sure I got that correct because Fields has had 0 success. Sorry, I'll pass. Like, I don't understand how anybody in their right mind could want Justin Fields over Justin Herbert. mean, that to me is like deciding to pick a McDonald's order over a Gordon Ramsay steak. Like, it's just, there's no way. Justin, John Spanos hired the coaches, not Telesco. There you go. Again, if you get it right, you're going to let him be the talent evaluator and let him do that. Nothing else. Nothing else. Like, you got to add more pieces here to this Raiders front office or else this will not be good. Wrong way. If we aren't in the top 3 draft, nothing changed. Yep. Got to get in the top 3. Eric, would you fire Kelly and try to get Ed Dodds? Oh, man. Ed Dodds is the better overall hire, but if you're Ed Dodds, you're not leaving the Indianapolis Colts' assistant GM job to take the Raiders' assistant GM job. Like, now I think the job Dodds gets is GM of the Chargers, if I'm being real with you. Knockout, thank you so much, man, for supporting the show. Steve, David, it will cost, if it costs the Chargers less to get a top 3 pick, then we have a chance to get Herbert. Sure, but from everything that's being reported, Jim Harbaugh likes Justin Herbert, and I don't see why he wouldn't. I also don't see why the Chargers would try to trade up in the draft for a quarterback. Like, you're hoping, like, every single Raider fan out there hopes that Drake May is Justin Herbert, that Jaden Daniels can be a Justin Herbert, that Caleb Williams can be as good as a Justin Herbert. Like, Justin Herbert is a top 5-ish type of quarterback from a talent standpoint. He is top 5. Steve, if you can't tell, trade up. Would you trade down? I do not. The only way I'm trading down is if you tried everything in your power to trade up, and then if you're at 13 and none of the players there that you love are on the board, you want to trade down and stock up a little bit, I'm not against it, as long as you get good value for it. Sean John, Mitch, make your prediction. Who ends up being the OC? I'm going to go Cliff Kingsbury. Who ends up being the quarterback? Let's go Jaden Daniels. And what's the Raiders' record go? If you told me right now we get Jaden Daniels at quarterback, Chuck said 14-3. I'll still go a little conservative here because there are still some unknowns out there. If Jaden Daniels is the Raiders' quarterback this season, let's go 10-7. Like, 10-7 gets you into the playoffs. I think it's still, you're going to have your ups and your downs. There's still a lot of unknowns of what the Raiders could do in free agency. But if that all happens, I'd be pretty happy in year one of a rookie quarterback getting to 10-7. Slaughterproof. Who are you fine with trading away to get number 1? I will trade away literally anybody not named Devontae Adams, not named Max Crosby. Actually, I will trade anybody not named Max Crosby. That's probably the way that I would go. And Devontae's great and all. He's amazing. But if you told me right now a team valued Devontae as 2 first-round picks and I could trade Devontae Adams plus, let's say, you give up a first this year and it's 2 seconds. If it was a first, 2 seconds in Devontae Adams, you would do that in a heartbeat. Raiders smoke. Papaya man would take Herbert in a heartbeat, not even a question. Agreed. Dustin, trading up for Harrison Jr., then Herbert and Fields. I don't see how you even think that's possible. / if the Raiders traded up for any position that's not a quarterback, they should fire Telesco. Like, you can't trade up for anything that's not a quarterback. Way, way too much to go get a wide receiver, especially at a need that we don't really have, right? Like, wide receiver we're good on. I'm not doing this. Real Cowboy, you're next up here on the Raiders Report. Herbert sounds great, but no way the Chargers trade him, especially within division. Couldn't agree more. Total fantasy, top 3 in the draft is still the best option. Agree. All right, y'all, if you want to shout out here on the Raiders Report, I want to know your grade. Give me your Tom Telesco grade. A, B, C, D, or F. Is the hiring an A? Give it an A. Is it a B? B. Chugs is going to give some shout outs. I got a boot to do here for Patrick B. Just keep that on the lookout. And as always, if you guys want to get in our 50-50 raffle, it is a $20 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365 to get in. The last people that I see getting in was Rosario, James Bowman. Next up is Michael Dodge, you in. Jason Martinez, in. Anthony Merjai, hopefully I pronounced that right, in. OC Raider, in. Sean Coops, or Couples, in. I got Scott Eckert, you in. Brandon Thies, in. Devin Jones, you in. Robert De Liberto, you in. So as it stands right now, $20 Venmo for a chance to win $140. Grade the hiring, Chugs. Can give you a few shout-outs here, my good sir.
Of course. We got Mark Navarro with an F. I'm going to go everybody that's given Fs. Mark Navarro, I've got, that's actually the only F. Joe Gatlin has a C. Raider Nax says C. Tropical Remy says C. Buzz-O-Maddox giving a D. Sienna's given the D. Who else? We got C+ from Top Beats. Efren gives a B. We've got IROC says A+. Azula says A+. Buzz-O-Matic giving the D. Zach Fig going C. Rory's giving a B. Raider Marty's giving C. Braden B-. Victoria B-. J Tack giving a C. Let me know your grade down below. Juan Hernandez gives an F. JRN Brian giving an F. Blue Richard C. Anthony C. Romeo, where art thou, Romeo, gives a B+.
Gotta get the QB right. That's all that matters. It don't matter until you get the QB right. Wow. That boot, man. Ooh, boy. I would love to see the Raiders do something wild. Ben Bailey give it an A+. Ben Bailey gives it an A+. Wild one. Co-GMs, Telesco drafts, Kelly controls the finances. To me, and I've said this multiple times on this show, what's really going to be important here for the Raiders is building a great team. And I don't mean just like team on the field. I'm talking, you need to build a good front office, right? Like, you got to have cooks in the kitchen. And what I hate when people are like, oh, do you think that all these people are going to be okay working together? You should be okay working together. Be an adult. Do your job right. Like, I hate the God mentality of the Josh McDaniels. I hate the God mentality of John Gruden. Like, the reason why Gruden failed was because, obviously, emails. But the other reason why Gruden failed was he thought he was the smartest person in the room, and all that mattered was what Gruden wanted to do. The reason why Josh McDaniels failed is because he thought he was the smartest guy in the room, and nobody else could weigh into that conversation. That's dumb and very... you want to talk about insecure? That's an insecure mindset. What you should do as a leader is say, all right, like, what do you have to say? All right, let me hear your side. What do you have to say? All right, let's go there. Instead of hearing everybody out, and then you come to a decision. But what can't happen is everybody talks about it, and then it can't just be like, well, I know this is what you said, but I'm just going to do this instead. Like, that's not how good organizations run. Nico, let me screen grab you saying trade Max real quick for IG. Hashtag clickbait. So you've seen that, huh? Yeah, I was kind of thought it was funny. For those that don't know, you guys can check it out on IG. Somebody got mad because of the video that I put around the idea of when Max said that anything would be on the table for a trade. So I made Max Crosby trade ideas to lay out what it would cost, just to give you guys a rundown of how much it would cost. Calls it clickbait, but then posts it on his IG saying, this is clickbait. But if you post something like that, that's more clickbait than the actual video itself. It was, no context, you posted clickbait. With context, anybody thinks it's clickbait is just a troll. What's up, Ben? Called it. Champ wasn't the answer. If AP wanted them, he would be it. I mean, I disagree with this. I do agree that it was not like Champ Kelly was my number one choice. Like, Ed Dodds was my number one choice. I am more upset that the Raiders did not go with Ed Dodds. Like, that's why I'm upset. To me, Ed Dodds and Antonio Pierce would have been... Yeah, I mean, it would have been an absolute slam frickin' dunk, man. It really, really, truly would have been. And now they decided to go a different route. We'll see. All that matters is what they do next year at the quarterback position. Ben Bailey loves it. Going to give it an A+. We'll see. We'll see. Raiders smoke, not opposed to Fields, had no weapons in Chicago. Like, I think for people that say, like, let's bring in Justin Fields, this is an okay idea to do, but it can't be plan A. Plan A is straight up into the top 3, and if I'm the Raiders, all I am doing, once I hire my OC, once I get my staff together, what I am going to try to do, as soon as it's allowed, is say, I'm calling up the Bears, I'm calling up the Commanders, I'm calling up the Patriots every day, and I'm going to say, what is it going to take? what do you want for me to get up there? If they literally go, it's never going to happen, stop calling me, we're going to block your number, we're going to get a restraining order type of thing, then that's when you go, okay, now I can look at somebody like Justin Fields, because Fields to me does have high upside. He does have a lot of talent. You cannot deny that. The offense that he would play in for the Raiders would be the best offense he's ever played in. And when you look at the teams that he was on in Chicago, they were bad. They were horrendous football teams. And now this year he gets at least a little bit of talent around him. Still not great as a passer, but they were still able to do successful things. And when you have a guy like Luke Getsy as OC, he's more of a run guy, right? He's going to run the rock. I would want Fields to be around smart, intelligent, offensive-minded people. Like, if you brought somebody in like Zach Robinson, who I believe is a up-and-coming coach, he's going to be a very coveted OC head coach someday. You can bring somebody in from the Sean McVay tree. You pair him up with Justin Fields, that gets a little bit interesting to me. What's up, Joe? How confident are you that Daniels won't be a bust? I'm still emotionally scarred from Jamarcus Russell. You're probably always going to be emotionally scarred from Jamarcus Russell, but here's the thing. Jaden Daniels ain't Jamarcus Russell, and anybody comparing the two is just comparing the helmet. It's just like when people said C.J. Stroud's going to stink because he's from Ohio State. Looks like he's doing pretty well. Like, the quarterbacks are not even kind of close. But there's a risk in everything that you do. Like, is there a risk Jaden Daniels a bust? Yes. Like, to me, the QB that is the least chance to bust is Drake May, number one. Number two, then, I would probably say Jaden Daniels. Number three would be Caleb Williams. But Caleb also has the highest ceiling. What about Jamarcus Russell as OC? A lot of blank tapes. Knockout. Appreciate you, man. He'll stick it to L.A., makes Caleb Daniels possible. We'll see. To me, Caleb Williams is a bear already. Anthony Delgado, would Kirk be your plan B or plan C? No. How about this? I am going to talk about Kirk Cousins a little bit later on today's show, and anytime Tuesday happens. So I always go live on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, and I always create segments and shows that I can talk about here. The two segments that I'm still going to do live here on the Raiders Report, I'm going to talk about Kirk Cousins, so that's one. And then the other is going to be Mel Kiper's latest mock draft. So if you want to stick around and watch that, I got a tons more content to get into today. Roshisimo, this is big. We'll see the kind of higher. Wait, this is a big, we'll see kind. Oh, okay. This is a big, we will see kind of higher. You're right, we will see. And it would have been a big we will see with any GM the Raiders brought in. To me, though, the reason why Telesco gets the nod is because he has past GM experience, and I just want to believe in my heart of hearts and my gut that his quarterback plan was the most appealing. It was the most ballsy. I want to see some balls on the table. I want to go get a top quarterback in the draft. UA, what's up, UA? What am I missing about Herbert? What has he done with loaded teams around him besides lose to Derek Carr in a winner-take-all game? If Herbert could convert third downs, they would have... I don't know what it says exactly. I think what you're missing... to me, I look at Justin Herbert as a top 5 quarterback talent in the NFL. He's got the arm talent. He's got the running ability. Yeah, he still needs to be able to get it up here a little bit more. Maybe he's not the best leader. Like, that still could come out. But to me, when you look at Brandon Staley, to me, Brandon Staley and Josh McDaniels are kind of the same thing. You know what I'm talking about? Like, where I don't care who you would have had at quarterback with McDaniels. I don't really know if you would have had much success. When I look at Brandon Staley as a head coach, that's what I think about. Like, Herbert's got to deal with a lot of other stuff. And yes, those teams were talented, but Staley was bad. Like, he was a really, really bad head coach. And the Chargers, due to Staley's issues, I think that really hurt them in really big-time situations. Like, there are certain people who just are not leaders. Brandon Staley was not a leader. Josh McDaniels was not a leader. And I think at the NFL level, you need somebody like an Antonio Pierce, where it's easy to show up on game day, but I need you to show up on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I need you to go in every single day. And with Staley, it just did not happen. If he gives us the talent that the Chargers have, may not be bad with a Herbert-type talent at quarterback or Rashawn Slater talent on the line. I mean, Rashawn Slater was my number 1 offensive lineman in that draft, so you don't got to tell me. Herbert, I want to say, was my number 2 quarterback in that draft behind Joe Burrow, obviously. But, like, what I do not want from Telesco is I don't want Herbert worked, so let's go with Bo Nix. That I wouldn't like. Raider Kev, shout out to you, man. Appreciate it. I believe now we are all caught up. Well, we got one more to get into. Kent, what are the odds that no top 3 teams will trade? Legitimately, I would say 75% chance that those teams don't trade. And if you're the Raiders and you want to get into the top 3, you got to make it happen. Like, it's not like, there are going to be certain teams that say, no, we're not going to do it. That just you got to spice up the pot a little bit. You got to sweeten the deal here a little bit, right? I will. You got to sweeten up the pot here a little bit. And for the Raiders, that's going to be something very, very important. All right, y'all. So here's what's going to end up going down. I see more super chats coming in. I will get to these super chats after our segment, but we've had a lot of people ask on this live show, and I've had people ask me the entire week, should the Raiders go out and try to get quarterback Kirk Cousins? Coming up here on this show is going to be my 2 cents on this topic, and then we will keep on rolling on any more GM questions that you have. If you're just tuning in, it's true. The Las Vegas Raiders, they have hired former Chargers GM Tom Telesco to be the Raiders GM this season. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And Davante Adams, he endorsed the idea of going out and getting Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins in 2024. So I'm going to tell you whether or not that's a good idea here on today's show. Now, a lot of y'all are probably wondering, well, Mitch, why exactly did he do that? Cousins is going to be a free agent quarterback in 2024, and it sounds like the Vikings are going to go in a different direction. But the Raiders Report is about the nation. The Raiders Report is about giving y'all a voice. So every single person that comes across this video right now, would you want the Raiders to sign Kirk Cousins in 2024? Type S for sign, type P for pass. Las Vegas has Antonio Pierce as head coach. The Las Vegas Raiders have Tom Telesco as a GM. Would it be smart for them to go this route and go out and get Kirk Cousins? Let me know your answer. Mine is going to be at the very end of today's show. So why does this pop up? The reason why this rumor is popping up here around the Las Vegas Raiders is because Davante Adams appeared on the 2G's podcast and was asked which quarterback he would like to play with next season. Adams responded mentioning Kirk Cousins. So anytime Davante Adams talks about what type of quarterback he wants to play with, Mark Davis should listen. Antonio Pierce should listen. Tom Telesco should listen. We should listen to that. Davante is one of the best in the biz, and the reason why it's so important this year is because Josh McDaniels is an idiot and ignored everything that Davante Adams said. Remember, Davante didn't like the idea of Garoppolo. Davante warned all of us in the offseason saying, like, I don't like where this offense is at right now. Jacob said the exact same thing. So if you're this new head coach, you're this new GM, you're going, well, should I listen to Davante Adams and go out and get Kirk Cousins? Like I said, I'm going to give you my answer here. So Adams mentioned that he didn't love the idea of having a rookie quarterback during the podcast. And I don't really blame him for thinking that, considering the fact of what the Raiders just went through this season. You brought in Jimmy Garoppolo, who was washed. You brought in Brian Hoyer, who was washed. How that guy even started the game this season is laughable to me. And then you had to deal with Aiden O'Connell. Like, what Davante doesn't want to happen again is you deal with another quarterback like Gaden. Yes, Davante spoke highly of AOC, which, what do you really expect him to do on a podcast? He did say some good things about Jaden Daniels, and we know Jaden has a lot of connections with Antonio Pierce, the head coach, with Marvin Lewis. Both were mentioned in his Heisman speech. If you want to see a video that I did earlier this week on the Raiders Report, I talk about there's a lot of smoke right now leading towards potentially the Raiders trying to get Jaden Daniels, and one of the things is Davante Adams talking about him. And then the Raiders' current quarterback situation is Aiden O'Connell. Like, to me, the worst thing that you could probably do this season is say, you know what, we're going to roll it back with Aiden O'Connell. If that's Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce's plan is to roll it back with AOC, that's a disaster. Like, you can't have that. You have to find a quarterback that can compete with Patrick Mahomes on a weekly basis. So this is what Davante had to say on Kirk Cousins. I like a Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is a really good quarterback. As far as availability, I think Kirk is a good player. So this is basically what Davante had to say on the whole idea of bringing in Cousins here to the Las Vegas Raiders. And Cousins is a good quarterback. When he is healthy, he is in that 12 to 13 quarterback range, which is, going to take us back to the Derek Carr conversations all again. If you were somebody that says, yes, I like Derek Carr when he was at his absolute best. When I say absolute best, I'm talking like 2020, 2021. His best was 2015, 2016, let's be real. But most recently, that's the type of quarterback when Cousins is at his best, that's what you're going to get. And I think that Davante Adams understands that Cousins is the top quarterback on the free agent market, which is why he mentioned him. If you're Davante right now, you're sitting there going, well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get into the top 3. Well, who's the number 1 quarterback on the free agency pool? It's Kirk Cousins, which it 100% is to me. This is not even a debate of who the top quarterback is in the 2024 free agent class. You got Kirk Cousins for me, and this is my rankings. Cousins is 1. Baker's 2, though I think he goes back to Tampa Bay. Ryan Tannehill, Gardner Minshew. Let's be real here. If you're the Las Vegas Raiders and you roll out any of these quarterbacks mentioned on this list, not named Kirk Cousins, that's a disastrous offseason. I don't care what you do. If you roll out any of these QBs not named Kirk Cousins, that is an absolute fat F. Now, here's the thing, man. Whether you agree with the Tom Telesco hiring, whether you agree with the Antonio Pierce hiring, if you're about the nation, to me, this is the ultimate proof that you don't got to be blood to be family. There's a lot of people that don't look like me. There's a lot of people that don't speak the same language that I do, that watch the show. There's a lot of people that I have met in person that, quite frank, I don't know if I would hang out with them at a bar. But what I love about the nation is when you have that one thing in common and you root for the Raiders, it is in that exact moment, it's family. And if you feel like that, subscribe, because this channel to me is the best family, minus the family I have here. It's the best family I got, man, and I appreciate the hell out of that. People are part of the Noti gang here. Shout out to Cito, Justin, 2-Win, and then Thomas Wright. If you're like, Mitch, what the hell is the Noti gang? These are the people that are subscribed. These are the people that got their notifications turned on and take some pride in being the very first people to comment on this show. So coming up, whether or not I want the Raiders to sign Kirk Cousins in free agency. Some people might think, well, of course, Mitch, that's what Davante Adams wants. Some people might think, well, no, Mitch, it doesn't make any sense. I'm going to tell you what I want the Raiders to do here around Cousins in just a second, but I do got to show some love to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. And to me, during the fantasy football playoffs, it doesn't get much better than that. I love fantasy football. I love the NFL playoffs. You combine both of them with a chance to win. I mean, what's better than that? If you want to go get started, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Just make sure that you use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. It is easy. It's exciting. It's daily fantasy sports. All you got to do is pick 2+ players, choose more or less, and that is all that is required for you to have a chance to win up to 25 times your money. If you're wondering, all right, Mitch, well, what are your picks for the playoffs this weekend? Luckily for you, I got them right here for you. To me, the games that I'm going to go with are this. I'm going to go Lamar Jackson more than 59.5 rushing yards. The other part about fantasy to me is if I lose, which everybody's going to lose. Spoiler alert, you're going to lose. I still want to have a good time when I'm watching the games, and I want to be able to cheer for something that I want to be able to cheer for. So Lamar Jackson, give me the more against Kansas City. FKC's down below. Christian McCaffrey, I always go more because that guy's unbelievable. Patrick Mahomes, more than 0.5 INTs. I'm betting on the fact that he's going to go out and get an INT. And then Jared Goff, less than 1.5 passing touchdowns. So to me, I think that the Lions are going to win this game, and they're going to do it on their backs. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So if anybody out there wants to get started with our sponsor, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Just make sure that you use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. So the reason why you're on this show, does it make sense for the Las Vegas Raiders to sign Kirk Cousins in the offseason? There's a lot of different ways that you can look at this, but to me, the Raiders going out and getting Kirk Cousins, is it the right idea? No. Should at least be mentioned? Yes. If I'm making a blueprint, right? If I'm sitting down in the same room with Antonio Pierce, I'm sitting down in the same room with Tom Telesco, and they go, all right, Mitch, put out your blueprint right now for the Las Vegas Raiders. To me, Kirk Cousins is like plan F on that. Plan A, okay? Plan A, is trading up and getting one of the top quarterbacks, whether that be Drake May, whether that be Jaden Daniels, whether that be Caleb Williams. To me, that's A, B, and C. Going up to picks 1, 2, and 3, A, B, C. Plan D is figuring out a way to get Justin Fields, who's a talented quarterback, but bringing him in. Then plan F is free agency. And free agency to me is either rolling with Kirk Cousins or you're going to roll with a quarterback like Russell Wilson on a cheaper deal. Like, there are 4 other QBs that I would pursue before him, which those 4 QBs I just mentioned. Top 3 quarterbacks in the draft, then it's Justin Fields, and then it's the debate, do I want to go with the cornball and Russell Wilson, or do I want to go with the most proven quarterback and Kirk Cousins in free agency? Like, he's been a solid QB for Minnesota. You can't really dispute that in the regular season, right? This past year, 69.5% completion percentage, 2,331 yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. If Kirk Cousins was the quarterback of the Raiders this season, they make the playoffs. Like, we're not going to sit up here and debate that. In 2022, 29 touchdowns, 14 INTs. The best version of Cousins was 2021 and 2020. This is where you really, really thought that he was going to get that mojo going. And Justin Jefferson is obviously going to help out a ton. But guess what? The Raiders have a lot of talent on top of that. So to me, I also get nervous, though, about bringing in Cousins because he tore his Achilles on October 29th. And I'm not a doctor, but an Achilles injury scares the absolute hell out of me. He had 3 days later, he ends up getting surgery, and he expects to be ready for the season. I expect him to be ready for the season as well. Cousins isn't a mobile quarterback. He's not somebody that's going to rely on running the football up. But you know what I do need? I do need to have somebody that's got some mobility, especially with the Raiders' offensive line. At the time that I'm making this video right now, they only have 2 returning starters on that O-line. Colt Miller, Dylan Parham. Andre James is a free agent. Greg Van Roten is a free agent. Jermaine Illuminor is a free agent. So Cousins, on terms of when he's going to be able to return in the future, this is what he had to say. My expectation is that I will be able to practice during OTAs as normal. But the question will be, is it worth it? And so you have to weigh that a little bit. But my goal would be that I'm saying I can go and you guys are going to have to stop me because I feel that good. If I'm not allowed into the full team drills, I know I can basically do a full speed practice on the field next to it. It's pretty much my goal. But 7-on-7s, there's nobody around you. It's a safe drill. So at minimum, I would think that's a drill that a pocket passing quarterback would be very doable. And that's kind of the beauty of the Achilles injury, is that you can get back and you can get going again in a way that isn't as crippling as if it was a back injury or something that's a little bit more critical, like your shoulder or your elbow. So this is Kirk Cousins speaking on when he's going to be able to return here to the field. So to me, I look at that and I root for Cousins. Cousins was a quarterback that I didn't know how I felt, and I'll be real with y'all. I watched the documentary, I guess, quarterback on Cousins, and that's the guy that I root for. That's a dude who works his freaking tail off. He's a great husband. He's an amazing father. Like, that's a very rootable guy. But Cousins also gives me a lot of the same feelings that I got with Derek Carr. So coming up here on the show, I'm going to tell y'all why I am going to avoid Cousins and why I'm going to disagree with Davante Adams and say this is not the right option for this current Las Vegas Raiders team. Before I get into that, though, if anybody's going to be out in Las Vegas during the Super Bowl, if somebody's sitting at home right now going, I don't have any Super Bowl plans, well, come to party with Chugs and I. And we're going to be live in Las Vegas. And if anybody's ever been to a Texas Live, an Xfinity Live, we're going to take that, but to the Raiders Report. We're going to have a lot of people watching us live like we do right now. We got over 3,000 people tuned in. Well, guess what? We're going to be at the Ahern Luxury Boutique Hotel in Las Vegas. And if you're wondering what our venue looks like, it looks like this. Chugs and I will be up on the stage. There's going to be 2 screens. One's going to be the Super Bowl. One's going to be the Raiders Report. We got a fully stocked bar. We're going to pack this thing. You can get about 100 people in here. So I'm telling you right now, the party gets started 2 hours before kickoff. First come, first serve. If you want to call Ahern and say, hey, what's going on here with this Raiders Report event? Give them a call. Tell them that you want your spot. Now, I know this, man. Some people are like, well, I want to go to the Raiders Report, but my wife, she wants to do something else. Luckily for you, they have an amazing steakhouse inside of Ahern. called Joel's Chop House. And if you believe in supporting the nation, the GM of Joel's Chop House is a diehard Raider fan, and actually how I found out about this opportunity. On top of that, who doesn't like wine? I know my fiance Alex is all in on a good wine bar, and especially a social club. She's Latina. She doesn't ever stop talking. But bottom line is this. You're going to be able to have a lot of fun at the hotel itself. And then after that, we're going to have special food and drink deals here at Ahern. We're going to be doing tons and tons and tons of giveaway prizes. And you're going to have opportunity to enjoy the live stream. It's not always going to be me doing the beer bong. It's not always going to be Chugs doing the boot. I want y'all to do that stuff for us, with us, live on the Raider Sport. So if you don't have any plans, put it in your calendar right now, February 11th, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 2 hours before kickoff during the Super Bowl. Here's the address. This is where we're going to be. If you enjoy this show, if this goes well, I'm being real with y'all, if this goes well, there's a chance Chugs and I could be out in Las Vegas every single Raiders game next season. And if that happens, coming up here, why the Raiders should avoid Kirk Cousins. I got 4 reasons here, and I'm going to try to lay them out for you. And when I do this show, I am as always as honest can be, right? The first thing is this. He's coming off a serious injury. Like, I understand people might say, oh, well, Kirk Cousins could be a good quarterback. You're right, Kirk Cousins can be a good quarterback. But he is coming off a serious injury. The Achilles scares the hell out of me. But you can't look at every single situation as being the exact same situation. What the Raiders, in my personal opinion, cannot afford in a year where you got Tom Telesco at GM, in a year where you have a first-year head coach in Antonio Pierce, I don't want, and I don't believe it's smart for the Raiders to bring in a quarterback who might not practice all offseason. We just did that song and dance with Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo's not even close to what Kirk Cousins is. Like, let's be real here, but what happens if Kirk, after the Achilles, isn't what he was? That could scare me a little bit, and then you're going to lose that time to get the repertoire, to get the rapport down, to get a new offense under with everybody on your offensive team. Like, to me, it is not a smart decision. It's not worth the risk in Antonio Pierce's first year to bring in a quarterback that might not be able to practice the entire offseason in a year where your entire offense is going to learn a brand new regime. That's not smart at all in my book. Next thing is this. It's too much money, right? It's going to be way, way too much money for a quarterback that, laying out everything that I just mentioned, you can't have another situation, Telesco, where you bring in a quarterback like a Jimmy Garoppolo and then it doesn't end up working out. Like, to me, it is going to cost the Raiders at least $35 million a year to bring in Cousins. Like, to me, I think it's even like $40 million plus, because when you look at a lot of the other deals, on top of that, Cousins has gotten guaranteed contracts more than just about anybody else out there. If I'm Cousins' agent, though, I go, well, wait a minute here. Derek Carr's making $37.5 million. Cousins is better than Derek Carr. Well, wait a minute here. Daniel Jones is making $40 million. Cousins is better than that. Like, Cousins is going to get more. And if you are okay with the idea of paying Kirk Cousins over $40 million per year, then maybe that's the route that you go. Me personally, I do not want to invest that much money in a quarterback that might not be able to practice the entire offseason in a year where you have to teach a brand new offense to all my players. Not worth it to me. The next thing is this. He's a slightly better version than Derek Carr. Like, I don't want to go back to the DC train. And DC did a lot of great things for this Raiders team. The Raiders would have won more games this year with Derek Carr at quarterback. Does anybody think that they would have won a Super Bowl, though, with DC? No. Does anybody think that the Raiders are going to win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins? No, I really don't think that. But you know what? I had to. I had to ask this question here. Now, there's probably some people that make Raiders videos that would probably answer DC. However, my internet's a lot better than theirs. So who's the better quarterback here? Derek Carr type DC, or if you think it's Kirk Cousins, I want you to type KC. For the first time ever on this show, you don't have to type FKC. If it just happens, it happens. But to me, Kirk Cousins is clearly, like, take your heart out of it. Use your brain here. Kirk Cousins is clearly the better quarterback than Derek Carr. I don't even think it's close, if I'm being honest with you. Like, DC hasn't been a top 20 quarterback for the last, let's say, 2-3 years. Cousins, the past 2 or 3 seasons, has clearly been a top 15 QB. But nobody talks about Derek Carr winning playoff games. One, because he's never won a playoff game. But also, nobody thinks that Kirk Cousins is going to be that QB that gets you over the hump. And sure, when you look at it from a career standpoint, their numbers are very, very similar from a career standpoint. My problem or point here is you got to learn from your past, right? I don't want to bring in a quarterback that has the skill set of a Derek Carr because guess what? I know DC can't compete on a daily basis with somebody like a Patrick Mahomes. I know that Kirk Cousins is not beating Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Like, look at all these numbers here. Yards, similar. Touchdowns, very similar. Interceptions, right there. Guess who also fumbles the football a lot? Kirk Cousins. He is a good quarterback. But at $40 million, I'm not doing it because he's not elite. You got to find an elite quarterback. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to us. Guess what? There'd be a lot more teams with elite quarterbacks out there. But a playoff record of 1-4, a regular season record that's been very average to me. You have the opportunity to get out of mediocrity. You have been a mediocre football team for a long, long time, a bad football team for a long time. One of the worst things that you could do is bringing in Kirk Cousins and hoping to go 10-7. If I'm going to go 10-7, I want it to be with an elite young rookie quarterback that has a future. Kirk Cousins, my final point here, does not have a future with the Las Vegas Raiders. And studies have shown when the QB, any NFL player, ends up popping that Achilles, their shelf life goes drastically down. He is going to be 36 years old. Let's say Cousins has 2-3 years left. And some people are like, well, Mitch, he can be a bridge quarterback. You can find cheaper bridge quarterbacks in the NFL. But Mitch, Devontae Adams wants him. I get what Devontae Adams wants. And I don't blame Devontae for wanting a guy like Kirk Cousins because you think about Devontae Adams' shelf life and Kirk Cousins' shelf life, guess what? They're right around a very similar trajectory right now. So, I don't blame Devontae for saying it, but I'm not going to put any player above the shield, right? So, because of that, I don't think that Cousins makes any sense. I will say this, though. The only way, and I mean the only way, the Raiders should pursue Kirk Cousins is if they know that they can't get any good quarterbacks in the draft. They try to trade up before the draft, doesn't work out, and they know, all right, we're not getting Jaden, we're not getting Caleb, we're not getting Drake May. Justin Fields, not available. Maybe he gets traded somewhere else, or for whatever reason, he's not available. And then the last reason is Kubiak. If the Raiders were to bring in Clint Kubiak and they were to hire him as OC, my opinion on this might change a little bit. And the reason why that I say that is because Cousins with Clint Kubiak was at his best. This is when he was in his bag. He had to learn his first year. And we've seen it with DC. We've seen a bunch of quarterbacks. You learn a new system in year one, you're going to have your ups and downs. And the Vikings had their ups and downs. Well, guess what? Year two, 35 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. This year then, 33-7. Yeah, when you get Justin Jefferson, I get it. It helps. But to me, the Kubiak offense and the style of quarterback that Kirk Cousins is, that would be a good fit. If the Raiders hired Kubiak as OC, my tone on Cousins might change a little bit but for what I know right now, I know it's Telesco, I know it's Antonio Pierce, and to me, I look at those quarterbacks in the draft and I say, those are the guys I want. Kirk Cousins is playing F. That's a settle. If you're going to swing for the fences with AP and Telesco, why are you going to try to lay down a sack bunt for Kirk Cousins? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. All right, y'all, remember, if you want even more updates, more content around the Las Vegas Raiders, you can always hit me up on IG. You can always hit me up on Twitter. I am at Mitchell Renz 365, pumping out more content, I think, than anybody that does anything around the Las Vegas Raiders. Why? I appreciate the heck out of each and every one of y'all. We have a lot of fun on this show. But believe me when I tell you this, I do this show to keep you guys up to date, but I do this show because I love freaking doing it. I love hanging out with you guys. And keep up to date with me. Twitter, IG, all the good stuff. You guys know where to find me. All right, let's have a little bit of fun here. I want you to pick a quarterback. If you had to choose out of these three options here, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, or Justin Fields, this is a spicy, and I mean a spicy question rolling in from Jeremy Chuggs. Where are you guys sitting here on this one? Nico's going to go with Justin Fields. Spoken says Kirk Cousins. Matthew Y. Fields. To me, the only answer that's not close, Fields is a better quarterback than Derek Carr in my book. Again, that's one I don't think is all that close. David Fields. Shithawk. What a name. Justin Fields. King Gabe's going to roll with Fields here. Jax. Also, Justin Fields. Youngest and has the most talent from BT Holmes. If you told me right now, I got to win for 1 year, and I'm going all in 1 year, who's the guy I go with? I might say Kirk Cousins. However, though, if I'm the GM, if I'm the Raiders, and I got to pick from this list, I'll go with Justin Fields. Then would be Kirk Cousins, and then would be a quarterback like Derek Carr. Yep. Sienna, JF. Victor, JF. Ooh, boy, interesting stuff down there. We got 2,300 people here watching the show. If you haven't already, make sure you guys click that like button. And yes, it is officially official. The Las Vegas Raiders, they have hired Tom Telesco to be the next GM of the Silver and Black when we make a trade to move up in the draft. Oh, when? Now. Yeah, you can do it now. I believe you can do it now, or it's like right after the AFC and NFC championship. There's like I think there might be a special rule on it. I am under the impression that it can be right now. Javi, the Chargers in cap hell, but if they had a Super Bowl, no one would say anything. They had a window, and the Chargers choked.
We were live for the game they choked against the Jags last year.
They were, that game, that was one of the most fun games I've ever been a part of.
Oh, they were up 20.
27-0. 27 or 29. It was like, either way.
Was it 27-0?
I want to say the Chargers were up, 27-0, 29-0. It was something like that. We were live for that game doing a watch party, and yes, Jacksonville came back. It was insane, man. It was insane. I still owe you guys a beer bong. If you're wondering what the heck I'm doing up here, I owe you guys an extra beer bong. Remember, 27-0. I mean, what a collapse. But to me, that's also on coaching, and that's also like on Brandon Staley. Like, Telesco was able to build some very impressive rosters, right? He was. I am still a believer, though, that as a GM, you can't just make Madden rosters and expect everything to work. Like, you got to find right fits. Only one field goal in the second half. But that's also just one example, right? Like, the Chargers, the entire time that Telesco was there, I want to say, one playoff win? Like, if Telesco had all this, like, if he was a highly decorated GM, I get the move over Dodds. And I get the fact that Mark might have been a little bit nervous hiring Dodds and Kelly as first-time GMs to pair with Antonio Pierce. But to me, that tells me that you're unconfident in Antonio Pierce. Like, that's what it tells to me. And if I'm AP, I'm going, well, wait a minute here. You hired me. Like, I'm a head coach. You should value me the same way that you value Josh McDaniels, the same way that you value John Gruden. Like, let me be me. I'm more confident in Antonio Pierce than I was in Josh McDaniels. That ain't close. And I'm more confident in Antonio Pierce than I was in John Gruden. That also isn't close. Telesco, though, has got to prove it. And if he's got the right quarterback plan, I'm telling you, I'm all in. All in. Chugs, can you give some shout-outs? I got to knock this back real quick.
David Silva, I still watch the clip of C.J. Stroud and the Raiders meeting. Oh, wow. Don't do that to yourself. You can't just be on the past.
That's like looking at
pictures of you and your high school girl.
Right, yeah. I was trying to think of another analogy. I saw something wild today on Twitter, and the Twitter streets sometimes get kind of outlandish. It was like a picture of like this girl with like her boyfriend, and then it showed like a video of her like on like a casting couch and the same outfit with her boyfriend.
Yeah. My TikTok algorithm has really wanted me to keep up with this comedian beef going on between this girl and this guy, where it's a he said, she said thing.
Ugh.
She said that he dogged on her after she introduced him. He said she was just ass.
I'm just going to say,
TikTok
Andres, Dustin Campbell, you in.
TikTok wants me to get involved, so I'm involved now.
Ken Souza, you in. Brandon Higgins, in.
Has anybody, am I the only one? Has anybody else seen this beef between the two comedians on TikTok? It's all over my feed. That's all my feed wants to show me right now.
Josephan Gurzo, you in. I mean,
do you know what I'm talking about?
I have apps. I don't have TikTok, so I have no idea what you're.
I'll show you after.
I have no idea what you're TikToking about.
I'll show you after, but it's all my TikTok wants to show me.
Now, see, to me, I'm convinced Alex, when she like wants something, she just, while I'm sleeping, she just says it into my phone over and over and over and over and over again. Because like I'll get ads on my Instagram that I'm like, how is this even popping up on my phone? And it's usually like fancy purses. It's usually exotic trips. It's usually shoes. Like I'm telling you right now.
Why are these Louis Vuitton shoes keep on popping up?
Like I'm gonna say a year before I proposed to Alex, the amount of engagement rings that I would get, I'm just like, she's just engagement ring, wedding,
marry me, marry me.
That's what I'm convinced she used to do.
Wild one. Top 3 QBs aren't available. Who's the top QB choice? I'm guessing you're talking about the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft. And I think Mitch already answered this. It kind of goes Justin Fields, then free agency of Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins.
Like you got to make your plan right now. And I'm telling you right now, if you try to trade into the NFL draft and it does not happen, and you got to do it before the draft, right? Like you got to do it before the draft. If it doesn't end up going down, you then have to switch and you have to go, okay, I'm going to try to get a Justin Fields. I'm going to try to get a Russell Wilson on a cheaper deal. And then if the draft happens, and if one of those guys fall out of the top 3, you say, all right, well, I understand what I already did. I don't give a shit anymore. I'm going to try to go up and get one of my quarterbacks. What you can't have happen is you say no to everybody in free agency, you wait for the draft, you miss on the top 3, and then you end up reaching at a quarterback at 13. Like, that simply cannot happen.
If you don't get the top 3 guys, would you be okay trading into the late first round, like pick 29, 30, 31, for either Penix, Nix, or McCarthy?
I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to work in the NFL. I really, truly do not. I would be more inclined to say Michael Penix or Bo Nix.
He's going to be selling insurance in Michigan.
And McCarthy's a great... Honestly, J.J. McCarthy to me is like Stetson Bennett, where he's a good college quarterback. He's going to fit in the right college systems. But when it really comes down to it in the NFL, he's not good enough to get it done.
Stetson Bennett was 32 whenever he entered the NFL draft.
Sure. I mean, Stetson Bennett also likes to party. But, like, if you said Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr., and I would rather those guys than Aiden O'Connell. Like, that I'll tell you right now.
Daniel said, screw it, give me Jacoby Brissett.
No.
Nico, interesting fact. The Raiders have never hired a GM with prior experience until now. The last 3 PFF grades for us, B-, B+, C for the draft. For the Chargers, A-, B, A+. Nico, the only thing I'll say with this is you never look at draft grades because one of the worst graded drafts by ESPN and PFF was the Seahawks draft when they got Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner. They gave them a D-.
One of the lowest, I was going to say, I've seen, like that draft was, I'm going to say one of the worst graded drafts of all time.
I think they also got Bruce Irvin.
Oh, dude, the Seahawks and Earl Thomas, I want to say, that the 2014 draft was regarded as like one of the worst drafts ever, and it came out to be one of the greatest drafts ever. Like, I don't really love PFF in terms of draft coverage. I've said that multiple times here on this show before. Like, those aren't the guys that I look at.
PFF, great for offense and defensive line. No. I actually take that back.
I think offensive line is, they're good for offensive line.
I can't say they're great for defensive line after they graded Max Crosby 42.
After he had like a 3-sack game.
Yeah. They're like, well, he did miss one tackle.
He should have had 5. Yeah. James, don't F with this guy. Telesco spends money like it's water. Look at the situation he left the Chargers in. Oh, he's going to spend, man. Like, Telesco is aggressive. If you're looking for the Dollar General version of Howie Roseman, you got Tom Telesco because Roseman's aggressive. Howie's one of the best in the biz for the Eagles. And, I mean, I've said before on the show, I would love to get Howie Roseman. He's a smart guy. He's not afraid to take chances.
Jewish.
And Telesco's done the exact same thing, too. Let's do it.
Rock out, Howie, my brother.
Let's do it. James O, party like we just signed Kenyon Drake.
Sorry for party rocking.
How many people were a part of the Kenyon Drake live stream? Because at one point, that was the biggest show that we have ever done. That show was so big that I remember we took the entire office out that day for drinks and food. I mean, that was insane. Now that's like every Thursday night football game.
Lamonte.
What's up, man? How do you got it. You got it.
How do you feel about Sam Howell from Washington in low-grade trade or Trey Lance? If other GM didn't get job for Fields, I think actually I don't hate that idea of maybe, like, Sam Howell wasn't awful. He was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL this year. If everything goes to crap, the Washington Commanders take a quarterback. You don't like any of the quarterbacks in the draft. Kirk Cousins stays with Minnesota. Russell Wilson ends up going somewhere else. The Falcons maybe trade for Justin Fields, and you're stuck with either AOC or somebody else. I would trade a 7th-round pick for Sam Howell and at least bring him in for a quarterback competition and say, we got to bring something else in. I think Sam Howell is a decent quarterback. He's shown that he's a good thrower of the football. Somewhere in that AOC level, I think he's a little bit better than AOC, better mobility, better ball placement. He was, a lot of people forget, he was the starter over Drake May at North Carolina. So it would be kind of funny if Washington drafted Drake May. But
yeah, it would.
If everything goes to shit, I wouldn't mind as a last resort. I mean, I wouldn't be happy, but I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on Sam Howell. I would do that over Trey Lance.
I agree with that. I would take a flyer on him over Trey Lance. Like, to me, if you can improve at any position in the NFL, you got to do it. To me, Sam Howell is an improvement over Aiden O'Connell. But, like, again, it would have to be desperation mode. Like, I'm talking, you failed. Like, if you get to the point where you have to say, let's trade for Sam Howell and let him compete with Aiden O'Connell, be the starting quarterback of the Raiders, Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco are already off to a miserable start. Like, as a first-year GM and as a first-year head coach, you have the most power that you are ever going to have, maybe minus coming off a Super Bowl win. Like, the ball's in your court. You can do and say what you want because this is your time to make your stamp.
That's like on your honeymoon, missing your flight out. Like, horrible start to the honeymoon. You're like, we got to get new flights.
Yeah, I get it. All right, you're married.
You're already married.
Yep. Honestly, I don't think it's bad. You missed your flight to your honeymoon, and now you just got to go to Home Depot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't settle on Sam Howell, man. Wild one, my answer, Carr. I saw his last 3 games. That's great.
Woo.
Derek is not good. Russell Wilson is better than both, and he is basically free. What are you talking about? Why would we even consider Cousins all in on Wilson? The reason why you would consider a guy like Kirk Cousins is because I think one of the things that you have to be able to put into this conversation is the locker room. Like, Russell is going to be a headache in the locker room. And you kept Antonio Pierce, so you kept a bunch of these players that they're going to try to keep that locker room close together. Yes, Russell, to me, when fully healthy compared to Kirk Cousins, I do think is a better quarterback. But Cousins is going to be a great fit in that locker room. He's a leader, and you need to have a leader at QB. Russell Wilson is not a leader at the quarterback position. Anthony, not amazing, not horrible, but a solid pick for GM. He averaged at least 2-3 solid picks per year, way better than what we have done. Telesco has hit some really solid players in the draft. Like, I don't want to take that away from, like, Telesco has done a good job in the draft at certain times. Like, I'd say recently he's missed a little bit in the first round. He's got Herbert right. He got Rashawn Slater. Honestly, you hit those 2 players and a lot of people are happy. He did a good job in the back half of the draft, was not afraid to go out and spend big on money. It's just he cannot be in charge of doing salaries. I think I've said that 100 times now. Aggressive. The Bolt hater in me cringes at this hire, but let's be honest, he's hit more draft picks than any of our in the last 10 years, believe. You're right.
Being honest right here, I just spent the last 2 minutes trying to figure out what LBH is.
Oh, let's be honest?
I thought he missaid, let's effing go.
I think it's, let's be honest. You're right, though.
You're probably right.
However, though, aggressive, and I don't want any Raider fans to make this point either, because if you're judging anybody based off of a hire, based off of what the Raiders have done recently in the draft, like, that's not a high pedigree to have, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, that's such a low bar to set. If you're going to have the statement of commitment to excellence and your bar is what the Raiders have done, that is commitment to average. Like, not commitment to excellence. You need to be able to raise that bar. And the reason why it's so important and why I think that Telesco was not the right hire, again, I want to see what the quarterback plan is because the only way you're taking down the Kansas City Chiefs, like, that team's in your division. They're in 6 straight AFC championship games. It's not with just being kind of good.
And
you need excellence.
I think that's kind of the reason why you, me, other people are kind of feel that same way about Derek Carr, and that was he maybe the best Raiders quarterback in terms of the statistics in the quarterback throwing era? Yes. But if you look at the Raiders quarterbacks in the past 20, 25 years, he's not got a lot of talent to meet up with. So you're like, okay, yeah, he's the best Raiders quarterback in the past 20 years.
Like Rich Gannon or Derek Carr, because I'd say like that's the last time it was even a conversation.
Yeah, so it's like if you're basing him off of all the past Raiders quarterbacks, yeah, for sure, Derek Carr. But if you're basing him off of quarterbacks in today's NFL, like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, even now Jordan Love, like...
You're never going to win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr. You're never going to win a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, the more and more you look at these NFL teams, now I get it. What the Niners are doing right now with Brock Purdy, it's impressive. But they've also built something there that not a lot of teams have been able to build. Like, they have a phenomenal... When you think about some of the best players in the NFL, there's a lot of them on that 49ers team. Like, they have been able to build something very, very special there. Which
the fact that the NFL...
And you got to give Brock Purdy a lot of credit.
The fact that the NFL and the Commanders just allowed the Niners to trade for Chase Young at the trade deadline is absolutely ludicrous.
Yep. What up, John Rodriguez? Mitch, the best scenario would try to get into the top 3, but if not available, then go after Justin Fields. But if all are not available, then move up to 10 and get... You're talking about the offensive tackle from Penn State. I'd be very happy with that. Here's the thing. That wouldn't be the offensive lineman that they would go after. If there is one of my things that I have, and again, So one of my things that I have for notes on Telesco, and we do a lot of draft research, and the more and more I started doing research on some of these GMs, one of my top notes on what Telesco is, loves Notre Dame players. And you go back and you look at a lot of drafts. He has not been shy about Notre Dame players. Now, to me, I think Olu is a phenomenal OT, and I do think that he's there at 10. I don't think Joe Alt's there at 10, but I'll tell you what right now, if Joe Alt is on the board at 13, lock it in right now. Now, I'm telling you, lock it in right now. If Joe Alt is on the board at 13, I don't think he falls there, that's going to be the Raiders' pick. That's going to be who Tom Telesco goes with.
I don't know. You might see 4 wide receivers and 3 quarterbacks in the top 10.
I think you probably do see 4 wide receivers in court. I mean, Joe Alt, to me, though, the last time I was as confident, the last time I was this confident about an offensive tackle, I would say either Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater. Like, I love those 2 guys.
Both are pretty good.
Both are pretty damn good.
J-Man.
This hire tells me Raiders will be less aggressive in the draft this year and more likely negotiate a deal for Justin Fields. I'm a little worried. See, I think the complete opposite of that. I think if you would have kept Champ Kelly, it would have been we're all in on Justin Fields. Like, the fact that they decided to not go with Champ Kelly makes me believe that, sure, Kelly's still the assistant GM, but that's not it.
Can we get some FKCs in the chat? We got a Queefs fan down there.
Daniel Ayala. I mean, he can do what he wants, right? Like, he's going to be gone. Oh, and that was quick. Sherry Lynn Cummins, Raider Hippo. What's up, Raider Hippo? Albert Ramirez, my man Venthrak.
Luis says, would you take Bo Nix in the 2nd or 3rd?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Again, though, it's not the option that I want. If you take Bo Nix in the 2nd or 3rd, like, I want a quarterback in the top, like in the top, right? So you missed on free agency, you missed in the draft, and now you're settling on Bo Nix in the 2nd or 3rd. Like, he's not going to be there in the 3rd round. Like, let's be real. You got to take him in the 2nd at pick 44 or have to trade up for him a little bit. I guess the other option would be if you decided to go with a quarterback like a Kirk Cousins. I mean, if I sign a QB like Kirk Cousins and I'm thinking about, all right, who would be a good bridge quarterback for a system that I would run very similar to a Cousins system, it would be Bo Nix. So you have Bo Nix with Cousins for 2-3 years. You let him learn underneath, and then you hand the keys off to Bo Nix. Like, that could be an option. But again, it's to me, if that's what ends up being what happens, it was not a successful offseason.
If the Chargers hire Harbaugh and don't keep Kellen Moore, thoughts on picking him up with the new GM hire? Not as OC, but if nobody
quarterback coach.
Yeah, if nobody's gonna pick him up as an OC, I would snag him as your quarterback coach because
he might be one of the highest touted QB coaches in the NFL.
I think what he did with Dak Prescott in his first couple of seasons was really remarkable.
Yeah.
And then once he got to the OC job, and even with the Chargers, it was a little hard because it's like in Dallas, it was how much control did he really have with the whole Jerry Jones situation of kind of the overarching, powers that be with the Cowboys. And then with the Chargers, you have a offensive coach in Brandon Staley. So then how much leeway did he really get to be creatively, expressive on the offense in Los Angeles? But I think at a quarterback coach position for him to prove himself again and groom whatever quarterback comes, especially if you do get a rookie quarterback,
for sure,
I think that would be a knockout hire.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of Nico Laz, I was just going to mention this. Albert Breer just reported, if you want to put up, Nico just sent in a super on it. I was literally just going to say it, and then I saw it. Albert Breer reported that Telesco's second interview included a meeting with Antonio Pierce, and according to Breer, that their connection was very good.
Wait, say that again?
So Nico just sent in a super, and I just saw a report come in on Twitter here that talked about this. So Breer reported that the second interview had AP and Telesco in it, and it sounded like that meeting went well. So,
I would hope that you got AP's approval.
I'm telling you right now, if the report came out that AP wasn't happy, like I look at this report being a, well, no duh type of thing. Like I appreciate you sending in the super on it, but Breer's been a little hit and miss. He's been a little bit more on the hit range, I'd say, this past time. But for like a whole year, Breer's reports were just, they were tough to be able to wrap your mind around. Dylan, what do you think a Herbert trade would cost?
A lot.
I would say a Herbert trade is going to cost very similar to what's going to cost to get the number one pick. Like, I know Raider fans don't view Justin Herbert as being a good quarterback, or even, like, where would you guys rank Justin Herbert in terms of 1 being the best quarterback in the NFL, 32 being the worst starting QB in the NFL? Because I believe most NFL teams view him in the 5, 6, 7 range. And then if you were to ask probably a lot of NFL teams, give me a quarterback under the age of 26, 27.
I see 25, 30, and 25.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if that's your case, then you're not going to want Herbert. To me, though, I would say if you were to ask all 32 NFL GMs, and if I were to ask every single person in this chat sports office, which I value their opinion, every single person says he's a top 10 QB, top 10 quarterback. It's going to cost you something like the first overall pick. Yeah, I mean, to me, he's the real deal. He's just been in a really bad coaching situation for a long time. Let's go to my man, John Scheffler. Don't forget, if Champ does not get another offer, he's still under contract, so he might be not going anywhere. I get that. To be honest, I would actually rather Champ Kelly go get hired somewhere else to be a GM, and we get 2 third-round comp picks. But I do think what's going to be important here is for the Raiders to try to keep Champ Kelly. You keep Antonio Pierce. You add that to Tom Telesco, and you just add more cooks to the kitchen. Like, the way the Raiders got to be better is they got to have more opinions in the room that matter. It can't just be, here are 10 opinions, but McDaniels gets to make the final say. Here's 10 opinions, John Gruden gets to make the final say. That's not how good organizations run. It's not how good businesses run. It's not how good countries run. It's not how good anything runs. Memo. I don't think the Raiders can get into the top 3, so what quarterback would you take at 13, or would you trade for Fields? There is not another quarterback that I'm taking at 13. Like J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., they don't even deserve to sniff the top 20. Like, if you're the Raiders, you take best player available at 13. If the option was, I'm taking a QB at 13 no matter what, or Justin Fields, it's Justin Fields to me, and it's not close. Like, you can give up, because if that happens, the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams, so that means Justin Fields is going to be much, much cheaper. Then you can get Fields for, let's say, I still think there will be a bidding war on Fields. Like, it's not just going to be the Bears take another quarterback, Fields is for free because they went with another guy. No, Justin Fields is still a I think teams still value Fields' upside being very, very high. So, like, there's going to be teams out there. Like, I've heard some people that say there's teams in the 20s that would give up their first-round pick for Fields. If that happens, then you're going to get into yourself a little bit of a bidding war. But at pick 44 overall for Justin Fields, or taking a quarterback at 13, I mean, it's not even close. Shane, do you think Telesco was hired to trade up but don't give up the farm for the bankroll of the company? I'd rather have Fields. He's going to be a great teammate. Fields can be solid, but to me, it sounds like Telesco's got a plan, and hopefully that plan is at quarterback. Venthrak, wonder if TT working for a division rival played a role. Oh, Tom Telesco. Okay, I was like, see, I gotta get used to these. What is that called? I guess I'm thinking of something else. He was deep knowledge of the Chargers roster. He does. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I was thinking like vernacular. I don't know what word I was looking for. Either way, yes, he does have a deep knowing of the Chargers roster, but here's the thing. That roster is going to be a lot different, right? They're going to bring in a new head coach. They're going to bring in a new bunch of everything. And if it's Jim Harbaugh, which I think Harbaugh is going to be the next head coach of the Chargers, I mean, you're not going to have nearly as much insight. Like, it's not even going to be close to the same roster. That's like going from Josh McDaniels to Antonio Pearson saying you have insight. Yeah, sure, you're going to have some insight, but the rosters aren't even going to be close. Wild one. When are new Raider More members being added to the chat? We just added Justin Avgin, so I saw what you guys, said in the group chat, but until I get into a call and until we talk about it more, like, I haven't really approved of it yet, / I want to be able to talk to you all about some other ideas. So I would say we are months to probably a year away from somebody getting into Mount Raider more. What's up, Chef? What I am hearing is nobody's going to trade out of the top 3 for a quarterback. We have to look for other options. To me, until you get to that point of that there is just no chance. Like, to me, I think you got to keep trying. Like, I'm not just going to, I am just going to keep trying to get him in, man. Months away. Maybe, Chef. You were definitely somebody that was nominated. Like, the way I want to do it is I want to nominate people for Mount Raider more. Again, there's been discussions about adding more people to it, and we can add more people to Mount Raider more. It's just I want to be able to have conversations with Ron, Zahn, all the people in Mount Raider more, and then we'll figure out what it takes to get more people in. But it does sound like we're going to start adding some more people. Like, I think we could get up to 10, 15, 20, maybe by 2025. Anthony, we get in Bo Nix, former Ducks, lock it in Telesco. I don't want to just draft Bo Nix because he's an Oregon Duck, because Bo Nix and Justin Herbert are not even close to the same quarterback comp. Like, you're hoping Bo Nix is Alex Smith. Legit. Like, that's what you're hoping for. You were hoping for a game manager. Like, Alex Smith was a good athlete. I get he was the number 1 overall pick. Bo Nix is a good athlete, not a great athlete. You need to be able to put him into a very simple system, because if you ask him to do too much, he's not going to have success. Like, he just doesn't have it. Ivan, appreciate the kind words, man. I don't want to get into that. I'm Monty. We're not going to know till we get OC. Teams are going to want Max or Adams in a trade. Do we get into a bidding war with Atlanta for Fields? How about Zach Wilson? Zach Wilson? No. No to Zach Wilson. I mean, that's another guy. He's not a good locker room dude. And we could get into a bidding war for Atlanta. Like, to me, the top team that makes the most sense for Justin Fields is probably Atlanta. I will say another team that, I'm just being real with you, I could see a trade going down would be Atlanta and the New England Patriots. Atlanta trying to get a deal with Chicago. They get Justin Fields. Like, I also think that the New England Patriots would be a very intriguing team for Fields. Like, I think he'd fit with what Gerard Mayo is going to want to try to do. They're going to be able to really build that defense. You had a lot more draft capital. Like, I mean, imagine you trade for Justin Fields, and then you go out and you trade for Marvin Harrison Jr. What did I say? Oh, you draft Marvin Harrison Jr., and then you build, like, a lot more draft capital in that process on top of that. Like, Like, what I'd be worried about if I was New England is trying to put a quarterback into the mix too early to that team, because that team's not a good team. They have a good defense. That offense is bad. It's one of the worst offenses in the NFL. John, sorry, Mitch. I meant to say Atlanta or isn't that Alu? At 10-13, and rather get Tennessee quarterback over Nix and Josh McDaniels in the later rounds. I mean, if he's saying get the Tennessee quarterback, that's Joe Milton. Right? You're saying I'd rather get the Tennessee quarterback. Or are you talking about Ryan Tannehill? I guess that's the question. You're either talking about Joe Milton or Ryan Tannehill. Like, you can't go with Ryan Tannehill in the season. You also cannot go with Joe Milton into the season either. What up, Al? Time frame for OC. I think it happens in the next weekish. Like, if you're the Raiders, you want to get this thing going. The Chicago Bears, they just hired Shane Waldron to be their OC. And now you got to, the quicker you get some of this stuff going, the quicker it's going to end up going down. I did release a video about some of my top OC candidates, if you want to go check it out. John Rodriguez, we'd be absolutely effing stupid if we do that trade for Herbert. He's a top 5 baller. I think you mean if we don't do that trade for Herbert, he's a top 5. John, a lot of excitement here. I love it, John. All right, man, we got 1,800 people here in the building. We have now rolled through all the super chats. Remember, if you want to get in our 50-50 raffle, it is a $20 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. 20 to get in, and right now, as it stands, I'm going to refresh my phone. The last person that got in was Joseph, and now I got Anthony Green. So that means this. A winner would get $200. $20 Venmo to get $200 here on the Raiders Report. Also, Amy in. So now winner would get $210 here on the show. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report is going to be this. We're going to get into a segment around Mel Kiper. I'm going to tell you who Mel believes the Raiders should pick at 13, and then we're going to get into Mel's big board overall, and I'll tell you what I thought of that latest mock draft. Here's going to be my deal to the nation. If anybody wants to get turned up, if anybody wants to get a little bit weird, I have to leave today by about 5:30, 5:45. The only reason why I say that is because Alex and I, we have plans. It starts at 7 o'clock. I got our tickets to a concert, Shout Out to Game Time, and I don't want to miss that, so I can't stay all night tonight. But if you guys want to get a little bit weird, we can get weird for like 30 minutes here, partied up here on the Raiders Report. So the deal is, every single time somebody bangs, I will do a beer bong from here on out. But I'm not going to do it by myself. I want you guys to join in with me. So we're going to do this next segment. We're going to do a duck race. We're going to bang, and then we're going to get out of here, right? I want people to be happy, though. Like, I kind of agree here with Graf. He's saying, like, he's on Twitter right now saying, man, people are just miserable to be miserable. The way I look at this offseason is this. The Raiders hired Antonio Pierce. Tom Telesco was not our choice. Maybe not our first choice. Maybe some first choices for people out there. But I believe in AP. And I believe in this offseason so much that there's nothing that's going to take that away from me. And you don't have Josh McDaniels anymore. Like, any option that's not McDaniels is a positive. So I'm hoping that the Raiders are going to do the right things. I'm going to hope that Tom Telesco has the right plan at quarterback, and I am going to hope that that is the reason why he was hired to be the Raiders GM. So as far as I'm concerned, if y'all want to party, we can party. Does that sound good? I hope so. All right, y'all, coming up here on the Raiders Report, we're going to get into a Mel Kiper mock draft. I'm going to tell you who the Raiders pick at 13. I'll give you my grade on it, and then we'll get a little bit weird here on the Raiders Report. Sound good? Chugs, ready? Chugs is ready. Are you guys ready? If you're ready to get this thing going, I want you to spam Chugs down below. Coming up here on the show, a Mel Kiper mock draft. Mel Kiper mock draft coming up here on the Raiders Report. I'm Mitchell Renz from Chat Sports, and what we're going to be rolling through today is the first Mel Kiper mock draft of the offseason. I'm going to tell you who the Raiders picked at 13. I'm going to give you the grade on the overall pick there, and then I figured, you know what? For better context, I'm going to tell you what Mel's top 25 prospects are entering the 2024 NFL Draft. Now that the Raiders have hired Antonio Pierce, now that the Raiders have hired Tom Telesco to be their GM, guess what? Now the concentration goes to free agency. Now the conversation goes to the draft. If you want more draft videos around the silver and black, hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. And you know what? I'll make you a deal. I'm going to give you guys free videos every single day this year for the next 366 days. That sounds good to you? Make sure you're subscribed. All right, let's go to Mel Kiper's mock draft right now. Coming off the board here at number 1, it's going to be Caleb Williams, quarterback from USC, going to the Bears via the Carolina Panthers. At number 2, the Commanders. They're going to also go quarterback Jaden Daniels out of LSU. At number 3, it's the New England Patriots. And guess what? Another quarterback off the board. This time, it is Drake May, quarterback from North Carolina. I have said up here on the show before, and I have screamed, I have yelled, I said, hey, I want the Raiders to trade up into the top 3 to get Williams, Daniels, or Drake May. However, I can sit up here and I can say that all I want, and I would say right now that there is a 75% chance that Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May are taken in the top 3 picks of the 2024 NFL Draft. And because I think that it is the utmost importance for Telesco and Pierce to sit down, have that conversation, you got to try to trade into the top 3 before the NFL Draft. Because what you can't have is a plan that revolves around the idea of getting a top quarterback. You pass on all the QBs in free agency. I'm talking Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, whoever trades. You have your heart set on a top QB, and then you miss. Because if you miss, that is a disastrous start for Telesco and for AP. So what do you think, y'all? Yes or no? Should the Raiders trade up into the top 3 before the draft? To me, the answer to that is yes. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm going to try everything in my power to make sure that it does happen. I'm calling Chicago twice a day, 3 times on Sunday. I'm calling the Commanders. I'm calling New England. What does it cost? How do I have to sweeten the deal? And if it requires a player like Devontae Adams in order to do it, I'm willing to do it. The only player that I will not trade to get into the top 3 is Max Crosby. That is how I feel about this deal. So yes or no, should the Raiders do it? Yes. You cannot afford to not get a star quarterback. And doesn't mean that teams are going to be willing to do it, but you got to find somebody that can compete with Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs have made 6 straight AFC championships. Makes me sick to my stomach. You need to be able to find somebody that can compete with a Lamar Jackson. Got to find somebody that can compete with somebody like a Josh Allen. Aiden O'Connell ain't that guy. You need a difference maker at quarterback in today's NFL, and to me, trading up into the top 3 is how you do it. All right, so we got Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May off the board. Coming here at number 4, first wide receiver, it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., the best receiver in this year's class out of Ohio State. At number 5, the best tight end, Brock Bowers from Georgia. For number 6 in the New York Giants, they're going to go with Malik Neighbors, the receiver out of LSU. Got tons and tons of talent there. At 7, it's Joe Alt, and I said it before when I was live on this show. If Alt somehow finds a way to slide down to 13, I am willing to bet a lot of money that that's going to be the person the Raiders end up taking because Telesco loves Notre Dame guys. At 8, it's Dallas Turner, the edge rusher from Alabama. The Bears, their second pick here, they're going to go with Rome Odunze, receiver from Washington. The New York Jets, standing there at number 10, they're going to go with Olu. They'll try to protect Aaron Rodgers. I think is a very smart decision. One of the best offensive tackles in this year's class. At 11 is my number 1 corner. It's Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. To me, he's the best overall coverage corner. At 12, can't really pronounce his name. It's Latu, edge rusher from UCLA. To me, he gives me a lot of like Jalen Phillips type of vibes. Really, really good edge rusher. Has tons and tons of talent to be able to boot with that. But to me, if you're looking for a good edge, I do like him quite a bit. Which now means this. Who are the Raiders going to pick? And Mel Kiper's first mock draft of the season. Well, guess what? I'm going to tell you who they're going to end up picking. But first, I got to tell you about our awesome sponsor here, Game Time. And Game Time is a company that I have used. It's an app that I've used for many, many years, way before they were a sponsor on the show, because you can get awesome ticket deals. And for me in the business that I work in, I don't want to plan something months in advance, and then, well, guess what? The Raiders hire a GM, and then I can't go to the event. So what do? I wait for the last minute. I get my tickets at the very last minute, lowest price guaranteed. If anybody out there wants to go get started, you can download the Game Time app, $20 off with code RaidersChat. And if you've been listening to the show, you guys will know that Chugs and I, we're going to be out in Las Vegas for the big game, so we might stop by and get some Vegas Golden Knight tickets. Maybe we go and check out, I don't know, events under $50. I want to go to Tom Segura. He's going to be out there. But here's the thing. If you do plan on going to the big game, I want you to listen up. Use promo code Vegas100 to get $100 off a purchase of a ticket to the big game. And it's valid for the big game. This offer is available to all users, not just new users. And think about what you can do with an extra $100. Like, you can get some extra beers. You can even bang a little bit here on the Raiders Report. And again, it's going to look like this, code Vegas100. Jeremy and I were literally just talking about it before we were on the show. It was like, all right, if we had saved $100, could we go to watch Tom Segura? Could we go watch another event under $50? Like, one thing that him and I really were trying to do, I really want to go to a Las Vegas Knights game. Like, that would be sick to be able to do that. So bottom line is this. I think you can create really awesome memories with Game Time, because you're not going to remember the score probably 10, 20 years from now. But you know what I do remember? I can remember my first ever baseball game I ever went to. My dad, Sammy Sosa, hit home run. Like, that's something to me that I don't care what you tell me that price of that ticket was. That's going to stay with me for the rest of my life. And to me, Game Time not only creates awesome events for you guys to go to, they also have those lasting memories, so it's going to last a long time. One more time, download the Game Time app, $20 off with code RaidersChat. And if you plan on going to the big game, use code Vegas100 to get $100 off a purchase of a ticket to the big game. All right, here we go. The Las Vegas Raiders and Mel Kiper's mock draft. They are going to select cornerback Terrion Arnold from Alabama. He is 6 foot, 196 pounds, at 63 tackles last season for the Crimson Tide, 5 interceptions and 12 pass breakups. Mitch, why did the Raiders go with Terrion Arnold? Well, this is what Kiper had to say. This was another spot in which I thought about slotting in the fourth quarterback in this class, as the Raiders are likely to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason. They will. And from a rookie fourth-round pick, Aiden O'Connell struggled after some early flashes. Ultimately, this might be Las Vegas' best chance to get a true number one cover corner, though, as Arnold took his game to another level in 2023. He picked off 5 passes, had 12 total breakups, as quarterbacks completed just 37.9% of their passes when he was the nearest defender in coverage. He had shut down on one side of the field for a defense that improved down the stretch, but still has ways to go and to compete in a tough AFC West. When I think about Terrion Arnold and his overall scouting report for the notes that I have, he has the body, he has the athletic ability, he's long, he's lanky, he's got good speed. I think he's going to run somewhere around like a 4.45, probably 40-yard dash. But he can be a true outside cornerback one in the National Football League. I will admit, I like guys when they get better and better and better, and Arnold did get better and better and better, especially from the time when he first stepped on the field with Nick Saban to now where he is. He is a man coverage corner. Like, if the Raiders are smart, and the Raiders with Patrick Graham usually run a lot more man than they do zone, he's going to have more success. If you let Arnold be a man corner, he's going to be a really freaking good corner. If you want him to play more zone, you're not going to like the pick here in the first round. His versatility is something that I love. It's something that I think would fit great in a Patrick Graham scheme, because there's some scouts that say he could potentially play safety because that's how good of an athlete he is. If you want my, like, off-the-top Raiders comp, he reminds me of Nate Hobbs, a dude that is a athletic specimen that's got the length that you look for, that has the physicality, and he's not afraid to tackle. Terrion Arnold reminds me of Nate Hobbs. Not saying it's going to happen, but that's who he reminds me of. So how about this? It's time to get your red pens out here. I want you to grade the pick of Terrion Arnold to the Raiders at number 13, A, B, C, D, or F. A, and the way that I want y'all to do this show is I want you to be tough graders, right? Like, A is it's an excellent pick, slam dunk. B, it's a good pick. C, it's an average pick. D, it's bad. F, it's an absolute fail. For me personally, when I think about this, if I'm live on draft night, which guess what? Chugs and I were going to be live, so make sure you're subscribed. And if it's announced the Las Vegas Raiders at pick 13 in the 2024 NFL Draft, they select Terrion Arnold, I'm going to give this a C grade. It would be a average pick to me. He is the third best corner in this year's class. And I get it, you don't have Wiggins. I also am a bigger fan of Kool-Aid McKinstry, who played opposite of Terry and Arnold. And to me, it's really going to determine where exactly they end up falling. I do think he would be a good fit in Patrick Graham's system. But again, I want him to be physical. I want him to run around with confidence and swagger. And I will say, like, this would be a high upside pick in my book, because if you have AP and you allow corners to carry that swagger, like, think about where Jack Jones was and where he is now. Think about Nate Hobbs, like a lot of these players. I want that swagger. On top of that, though, if you got a secondary that's Nate Hobbs, Jack Jones, Trevon Merrick, Marcus Epps, and then you add Terry and Arnold to that is a really talented secondary, and defenses are not going to have a lot of ability to be able to throw. The reason why, though, I am going to give it a C is because what I think that the Raiders should do for this year's draft is go best player available. Like, you got to try to figure out how to build this roster out, and based off where this team is, it's best player available. And if the draft were to actually happen, Arnold will not be a top 13 prospect in my book. In fact, he's not a top 13 prospect in Mel Kiper's big board. So to me, it's a good player. It's a good player. I think it's a good fit. It's a C. But it is a bit of a reach for me, and because of that, it's not the route that I would go. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't love it. It's a C grade. So coming up here is going to be Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board. I'm going to go through his top 25 prospects in the 2024 NFL Draft. If you guys are going to be out in Las Vegas, who's going to be out in Las Vegas? If you are, guess what? Chugs and I, we're going to be live in Vegas. Super Bowl 58 watch party. Just hope it's not the Niners and the Chiefs. If it is, guess what? We're still going to be rooting against both those teams as far as I'm concerned. We're going to be in the Ahern Luxury Boutique Hotel. Here is the address. If you want to give them a call and say, hey, what's the latest here on our Raiders Report Super Bowl 58 watch party? Give them a call. Tell them that you want to reserve a spot. When is it going to be? Sunday, February 11th at 2 p.m. Pacific time. The plan is when the doors open, it will be first come, first serve. From what I understand, there's 100 spots. So if you want to make sure that you're there, make sure that you get here on time. If you're wondering, Mitch, what does the hotel itself look like? This is what it looks like from the outside. And I know, like, some of y'all are probably sitting around being like, oh, if I go, is it kid-friendly? Yes, it's kid-friendly. I had somebody DM me on IG at Mitchell Renz 365 asking, can I bring my kid? As far as I'm concerned, you can bring your kid. The way I would frame it is, do you let your kid watch the Raiders Report? If the answer to that is yes, then bring them to the event. If the answer to that is no, then I'd probably say don't bring them to the event. But this is what it looks like. They have a full, long bar inside. Chugs and I will be on the podium there. You're going to be seeing the game. You're going to also see the Raiders Report. But I want this thing to be interactive. We're going to have special food and drink deals where you guys are going to get some awesome food, but you're also going to have opportunities to do some beer bongs, take some shots with us, and, you know, join the show. Like, literally, like, you're going to be standing right here doing a beer bong next to Jeremy Chugs. You might lose. Probably going to lose, but that's how it's going to go. We're going to have special giveaway items. I'm talking jerseys, footballs. There's going to be, from what I understand, Raiders players going to be in attendance. Like, we're going to have tons and tons of deals going down. So think about this. You have plans for the Super Bowl. If the answer to that is no, pull up to Ahern Luxury Boutique Hotel in Las Vegas on Super Bowl Sunday. I can't freaking wait. It's going to be a big thing. And if you are a supporter of the show, if this goes well, I'm being honest with you, if this goes well, there's an opportunity where Jeremy and I can be out in Las Vegas every single game next season. Like, I want to do this every single game next year. And if it happens, we're going to be able to take the Raiders Report to a whole new level, which I'm telling you right now is going to be able to take this show to a whole new level, which also means the stuff that we do goes to a whole new level. All right, y'all, coming up here is going to be Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board. We're going to run through his top 25 prospects. And the reason why I'm giving Terry and Arnold a C grade is because, guess what? Terry Arnold's not even a top 25 prospect on the board for Mel. So that means the Raiders essentially took a player not in his top 25. If you're like, Mitch, give me the rundown. Here we go. Here's Kiper's big board, his top 5 prospects: Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Rome Odunze. I have no disagreement at all in the top 4. Then you go from 6 to 10. I think Joe Alt honestly deserves to be a little bit higher. I think he's a standout offensive tackle, going to be an absolute stud. Brock Bowers, one of the best tight end prospects we've seen in quite some time. Alu from Penn State, the offensive tackle, hell of a player. Dallas Turner, the outside linebacker from Alabama. These top 10 are pretty solid. From 11 to 15, Brian Thompson Jr., I do disagree on this a little bit. He is rising fast. Don't get me wrong. I just don't have him this high. Cooper DeJean, he has him as his number 1 corner. He's my number, I want to say 4 corner on my big board. Keon Coleman, hey, I can't wait to see what he does at the Combine. His stock might really go up. He's an absolute freak of nature, like 6'5", hell of a receiver. Nate Wiggins is my personal number 1 corner here. Troy, the offensive guard from Washington, to me, he might be the highest guy on him. Latu, he is the outside linebacker, edge rusher here from UCLA. Michael Penix Jr. is going to roll in here at 17. That's a little bit too rich for my blood. Jared Verse is literally from my hometown, and I know a lot of people very close to Jared. If you like a good feel-good story, somebody that had to work for everything that he's had, he's a hell of a player. I'm telling you, he's going to be special. He gives me vibes of people are not going to look at him seriously, and then he's going to show out, and he's going to be a hell of a player. Tali Fugai, I believe I pronounced that right, the offensive tackle from Oregon State. J.C. Latham, the offensive tackle from Alabama, rolling here at number 20. The defensive tackle from Texas, which I do like Sweat. I'm actually surprised that he's in Mel's top 25. I recently got him in a mock draft in round 2. Mims, the offensive tackle from Georgia. Tyler Guyton, yeah, you're not wrong. Jerzon Newton, the top defensive tackle here in this class at 24. And then Jordan Morgan, he looked like he was hitting that 420 like button. I don't know, out of Arizona. Bottom line is that's Mel Kiper's big board. So here in conclusion is where I'm going to wrap this up. Kiper is the Raiders picking a corner, not in his top 25 prospects. Don't love it, but I do like the fit of Arnold with Patrick Graham with this Raiders defense, and I think he's going to bring that Raiders swagger. Like I think when you watch the tape, Arnold's got some like Jack Jones, Nate Hobbs swagger to him. He is the 3rd best corner in this year's class, according to me. That's just my opinion. And then the Raiders reached in Mel's draft. They didn't go best player available, which I would have rather the Raiders have done in this here mock draft. All right, y'all, John Rodriguez time. What's up, John?
So he did mean Milton from Tennessee in the later rounds.
I mean, to me, if you wanted to go with somebody like Joe Milton in the later rounds, like, I'm trying to think of a quarter. Like, I don't know if I go Jaden Daniels and Joe Milton, right? If you want to run an offense, here, you want to get crazy with me, John? Let's say you trade for Justin Fields for your 2nd round pick. Then you run an offense that's going to be very run heavy. Like maybe you bring in a Greg Roman type of offensive coordinator. Then you go out and draft Joe Milton. Like Joe Milton's got good. He's a good athlete.
He's good. He's real good.
He's just a really, really bad passer.
Really good.
What up, Aaron? Trade a 2nd and a 4th for Fields. Draft an offensive tackle, DT or corner in the 1st. Find a solid running back in the 2nd or 3rd. Sign Kinlaw or Chris Jones in free agency. Kinlaw is up there. Chris Jones up there. However, I will take Christian Wilkins, Justin Matabuke over both of those guys. Rebel, give a play-by-play on the Super Bowl commercials.
We did a Super Bowl halftime show last year.
We did. That was something. That was, some say, better than the actual Super Bowl performance.
One of us was pregnant, and I'm not going to say who.
Yeah. That's, who do you think would get pregnant first, you or me? Ryan Campbell, you in. I got Steve Crawford in.
Yeah.
Guillermo Ramirez in. Mo Chavez, you in.
Yeah, definitely not cut season with the double starches over there.
Denny Aguirre, you in. And then another one for Amy. So 2 for Amy. So that means we are at 27 people here in this duck race, which means $20 Venmo. And you would win 270 bucks. Also on top of that, though, somebody, Jeremy, wants to bang. Somebody's looking to bang, Jeremy.
You send it?
I sent it to TV.
Oh.
Sorry, that might have been the wrong choice.
Oh, you're good. I can see it.
Oh, my back.
My neck.
My neck. My back.
The thing is, I already have his name in there.
Oh, dude, you already got it loaded up. Well, guess what?
One in the chamber for Ryan
Campbell. What's up, Ryan? If you want to shout out here on the Raider Sport, spam Ryan Campbell.
It's time!
Let's go. All right, here's how this is going to go. I'm going to be live here. Let's go for 10 more minutes. If you want more time, we'll give you more time. If not, I'm telling you right now, I want to get married next year, and if I am late to this concert, she's going to kill me. Now, obviously, I warned her all day. I was like, babe, I think the Raiders are going to hire a GM today. It's just, if it happens at the concert, I got to go. Yeah, dude.
What did she say?
I mean, Danny, Alex gets it. I mean, it's part of the gig. I always tell people I'm a doctor on call. I hope she would have. I mean, it's a concert. It sucks, right? I mean, it's happened before where we've been out at dinner, breaking Raiders news happens, and it's like, you're going to hate me. I got to go. And that's part of the gig, man. It's part of the gig. You want to give a few shout-outs here? Also, shout out to
Ryan, from Matt, Sienna, Nico, Raphael, Pat. I've got Isaac Hernandez, Matthew, Joe, Rebel Montana, a.k.a. Marshall's Poppy, 2 in when wrecked.
Wow, that's one name. That's a hell of a name right there. Isaac, we're not going to closing time quite yet. If you guys want it to be closing time, we can get there close. But my deal is this. Let's say this. We are 500 away from extending this show. I'm planning on leaving here in 10 minutes. If we get 500 in the next 10 minutes, we'll stay for an additional 15, 20 minutes or so. Not just one and all, collective effort. Collective effort. All right, we got Christian Perez in. And then I see Kenny Hoffman in.
I did see one from Taino.
Ooh, Taino, Tyler Huntley. That's what I think of Tyler Huntley. If you decided to bring in Tyler Huntley to be your quarterback, I'd rather you say, you know what, Saints, I realize you effed up on Derek Carr's contract. I'll take on Derek Carr's remainder deal, 4 years at $37.5 million, instead of you rolling with Tyler Huntley.
Diehard Raider, if you just sent in 20, he's just verbalizing people who sent in 20s for the raffle.
So
Venmo
only.
Yeah, you might have forgot or might have not heard Mitch say it.
It is Venmo only to get in the race.
Yeah.
Sorry, James just slacked me. What has Ed Dodds done? I don't think he did anything. I reported it yesterday, and I've talked about it a few times here on this show. From what was reported from people that I talked to was Mark Davis was afraid to hire a first-time head coach and a first-time GM. For that reason, that is why I think they ended up going with Telesco. Also, I just got double confirmation. We just got our media passes. So we're going to be out in Super Bowl. Confirmed. Let's go to Mark. Manning, Luck, and Herbert drafted under new GM LFG. I'm trying to figure out what you're saying here. Are you saying Tom Telesco? Because I don't know how this works. Let me look here. Manning, yes. Luck.
Yeah. Be a lady.
I'll tell you what, I don't learn many things off the jump on a show. I actually did not know that. And I'm being real with you. The fact that, yes, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, here's the difference, though. That's first overall pick, number 6 pick. Raiders are at 13, so it sounds like we got to get up there in the draft. What up, Jansen?
This would be shambles.
I can see us trading to 4, thinking Harrison Jr. will be top 3, then quarterback goes 1, 2, 3. That might be worst case scenario. That might be worst case. Like, don't get me wrong, having Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm not going to be upset about it, but it would be an absolute failure by the GM.
Shambo.
That would be an absolute failure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tony V saying, is Champ staying on as assistant GM? I mean, it's still his job. Like, until it's not his job, it's his job. You know what I mean? Like,
he said David Anderson. Did you get a David Anderson?
A David Anderson on Venmo?
Yes.
Let me see. I just got a
I feel like I'm asking you for a Pokemon card right
Jose
now.
Lorenzo.
Do you have a Charizard? No, I have a Jose Lorenzo.
I have Kenny Hoffman, Christian Perez, Amy, Dennis, Mo, Guillermo, Steven, Crawford, Ryan Campbell, and then there is David Anderson. Good job, David. David Anderson, you in. Also, PJ Simmons, you in. When Ryan sent in the 100, I must have skipped over PJ and David Anderson. So then it's Anthony Green, Joseph Van Gurzo, Brandon Higgins, Ken Souza, Dustin Campbell, Andres, Robert De Liberto, Devin Jones. Do I have it? I do have a Devin Jones. Brandon Thies, Scott Eckert, Sean Couples, OC Raider, Anthony Morara, Jason Martinez, Michael Dodge, Rosario Morella, James Bowman, Rosario again, Fluhy and Fluhy. Right now, $20 Venmo to win $320. $320. Aaron, you in.
Aaron.
You in. All right, Jeremy. I say this. I say let's run it. I say we run this race. Final call to get in. Final call to get in here.
Luck be a lady tonight.
Ricardo.
Luck be
Dude, Ricardo's last name is Mondragon. Imagine your last name is Ricardo Mondragon. You call me Nighthawk, I'll call you Ricardo Mondragon. Bro, I mean, come on. That is an elite nickname.
Are Bonita fish big?
Ah, crap. I sent it with the numbers. Hang on. I know. I just shut down the stream. Ricardo Mondragon. That's a real last name. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, is that not the greatest last name you've ever heard? Mondragon.
I think so.
I'm telling you right now, Mitchell Mondragon. I might name my kid Mondragon. Mondragon Renz. Mondragon 365. I'm not going to get over that. Look at him in the chat. Ricardo Mondragon down there in the chat. Name's real, bro. I don't believe it. It's almost too good to be true. That's insane.
All right, the winner of this would get $340.
Yeah, I'd say they're big. $340 here to the winner.
All right, Mitchell.
Let's go.
Here we go.
Saying it wrong, believe me, the amount of names I say wrong on a daily basis here, I have no idea what this is.
Cupid.
It's actually Patrick B. All right, here we go. Winner of this race is going to get 340 doll hairs. You ready?
Mitt Fluhy.
Yeah. Wait, we got to shuffle it. Mitt Fluhy. All right, you ready? 3, 2, 1. Who's falling in love? Let's go. Who's going to fall in love with $340? I really hope there's not people under there. Or else this is just...
This is murder.
Murder or just the world's largest orgy. You're watching it right now.
Have you seen Game of Thrones?
Yes, I've seen Game of Thrones.
The episode where Daenerys just tears up the whole town.
Oh, yeah.
They're just flying over.
Yeah, I mean, what you're witnessing right now is just the world's largest orgy. I mean, it's mayhem down there. Andres Montano's got a little bit of a lead here. I got to get out of the way.
Dude, this race is actually going kind of wild. They're
Ken
moving a lot.
Souza pulling up. Denny Aguara A lot of love flying around right now. I like where Steve Carford is.
What's love got to do?
Dustin Campbell here in an interesting spot. I want to say Dennis got it by a wing. 9 seconds to go.
What's love?
Winner is going to get $340. Is it going to be Fluhey? I think it's going to be Fluhey again. Matt Fluhey.
It's actually Matt.
Excuse me. Matt Fluhey. Wow, I'll tell you what. Matt might turn into the new Nico. Matt has been a little too lucky recently in these races. He's been a little too lucky recently. Mr. Fluhey, I need you to confirm down below that you have just received.
King Higgins said he's the Michael Jordan of duck race.
Somebody just said ban him. Dude won fair and square, man. 340 for the love because it's Cupid. That's funny. Fluhey, can you please confirm that you just won 340? That's hilarious. He's been very, very lucky recently. All right, all y'all. I'm getting ready to hop on out of here. I appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in to today's live stream. We have hired a GM, Tom Telesco. It's a done deal. If you don't have any plans for the Super Bowl, here are your plans for the Super Bowl. If you're going to be out in Las Vegas party with Jeremy Chugs and I, Rebel Marshall versus Rebel boot race in the event. I would love to be able to bring Marsh. I don't know if Marsh is going to be there, though. It says in the event. Yeah. I mean, if we start, how about this? How about this? Hear me out. This is an honest conversation. Rebel. Honest question, do people want Marshall to join Jeremy and I for our Super Bowl watch party? Y for yes, N for no. Y for yes, N for no. If it happens, I think then you got to actually boot race Rebel live.
Nico last says 100%. I think they're both counting.
I mean, I would say this. Maybe we do like let's get Marsh. What if we did like let's get Marsh to Vegas? And what if we did let's get Marsh to Vegas? We could probably use the extra help. I'll talk to the bosses. We'll see how much it's going to cost for everything. Because bottom line is this: we did not account for Marshall, so essentially what's going to happen is I'll have to talk to the bosses and figure out what the number would be to get Marsh to Las Vegas. I'll give you guys that number, and if we can make it happen on, I don't know, let's say Sunday when we go live, I'll create a Let's Get Marsh to Vegas fund to race Rebel boot fund. If you guys are in, we can make it happen. What?
Marsh made a video for the Giants to trade up to get Caleb because Daniel Jones on the trade block. Next comment, Marsh can sleep between you and Chucks.
That's fine. As long as you make candles, we're good.
Put me in.
Yeah, I know. All right, here's the thing. Seeing a lot of yeses.
I saw nothing for that. Marsh to Vegas.
I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do. I'll tell you what, though. One guy who's always down to party. Some of you guys know him as Matt. I know him as Party Fluhey. This one's rolling in from Matt Fluhey. Bang! What's up, Fluhey? If you don't spam Matt Fluhey, you get the hell out of here.
If you don't chew Big Red.
Rebel, does that mean you're going to be there? Rebel, here's the thing. If I do this let's get Marsh to Vegas thing for a boot race against him, that's going to be a big event. It's going to be a big, big event. Are you going, Rebel? I mean, Rebel pulled up when we did the wing eating contest. Rebel, I need to know. That means we got to get you there, Reb. All right, this one goes out to Fluhey. Chugs, can you give Rebels there? Rebel says he's pulling up. Rebel said he's pulling up.
Bro, we got to get a picture with Rebel and Marshall if this thing goes down. Dad and son reunited, and it feels so good.
Oh.
Juan Hernandez.
Wow. What about him?
Richard Renz, Luis
Holy
Rodriguez,
cow.
Kevin.
My dad, I don't think could have spelled Fluhey any more wrong. I don't think I've ever seen Matt Fluhey spelt wrong.
Matt Fleo.
Matt Flyhey. Matt Flyhey. Matt Flyhey.
Matt
Flyhey. Oh, man. All right, y'all. Hell of a show. Appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in for the breaking news around the Las Vegas Raiders hiring Tom Telesco to be their next GM. Once the Raiders hire an OC, we will go live here on this channel to break it all down for you guys. I have a lot of fun doing this thing, man. Wow, that one hurt. I appreciate each and every one of y'all that always take time out of your day to obviously hit that like button, click that subscribe button, have a good time. Fluhey, I'm going to say you are, if I look real quick here again, off the top of my head, you are 8 behind Abjin for the lead for this month. Abjin's just been on a whole nother level. But Fluhey, if I can get you out to Vegas, man, I would, if you're out there, I would love to be able to hang out one night. If you're out there in Vegas, like not, because I'm going to be out, Chugs and I are going to be there, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If you're out in Vegas Friday or Saturday, one of those nights, you want to go out and grab drinks, I'm buying drinks, okay? So don't do anything crazy. That's for Fluhey. That's for if he wants to go just bar hop a little bit. I'm down to get down. But hey, appreciate each and every one of y'all. I'm hoping this is the right hire. Hoping it's a home run hire here for AP. It's going to be the next step of getting the right quarterback in place. From me, from Jeremy Chugs, I want y'all to have a hell of a night. The next time that you're going to see Chugs and I live is going to be on Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. We're going to do a little wet and wild, a little thirsty Thursday type of action. Have a good night. Much love. Peace out.